What's up, everybody? This is it. We've come to the end. And a lesser man might look at 90 actions in a new set and say, you know what, I can't go through all these. But you know what? I'm not that lesser man, and neither is Paul Ashman. We are L5R
Absolutely
troopers.
not.
We are the shock
That's right.
forces of L5R commentariat.
Yes.
And we're going to grind
Cafeteria.
through every single one of these for you. This is going to be a longer video, so let's just jump right into it, Paul.
Yeah, we're doing the thing that no other intelligent person would do. We're
I,
roaring like a lion.
I actually like this card.
It's pretty hard not to like it because it says kill a thing, even though it says kill a thing with ranged attack. We've seen a number of bow for like range 3 attack type of cards. I mean, Fearful Volley, and then what is it, Show Me Your Power, or First Strike First, whatever one that one is. I mean,
Yeah,
bow
no
your guy, make
mercy.
a range
Yeah,
3 attack
benefits of
out of it.
honor, no mercy.
Right. And Serenity, though, is a card that you can generally do like a range. But the fact that with Tacticians, this is bow for range 4 or range 5, that's pushed, that's gas. And so that's where this will find its place, and it'll fit in just fine. You know, it's a 3 focus card that bow to kill a thing. Great card. Only for Tacticians, I think. I don't think it sees play outside of that, but
Yeah.
doesn't
Yep.
need.
It's always a 5. It has to target a guy with 3 P, which is a really weird design. I don't know that I
Right.
get it, but I guess to keep it out of like Mantis or Rani Sensei type decks, so you can like you
Yep.
pick your 1 PH guy, he goes to 3 and shoot. But yeah, this is an excellent card. I think that any of these line decks that run Tacticians will reach for it. Otherwise,
And
not
you
not
could
much
see
to say about
some
it.
weird Arani Sensei decks where you just happen to have like some maybe like an honor gaining win through honor Arani Sensei
Like a
shell.
crane, like a
Not
crane
out of line,
Arani or
but yeah.
something.
Well, I was thinking
Okay.
unicorn crane camper, but anyway,
All
onward
right,
we
okay,
go.
they got the Tsukihime Sensei. Test of Courage. This is an old staple. I don't know if it's stock where it's at anymore.
It's unplayably bad now. The inability to target your stuff after you use the interrupt is such a huge hit back on it now. Like, you can't use the abilities, you can't. And there's just so many. I mean, first off, it competes directly with something like Brazen Disregard. But
Yeah.
also, Thrill of Daring's back to us. No one ever plays a Test of Courage. It's a fine card to have out there. There was a time and a place when this was really good, and it works on the favor. And there are
This
very few things that work on the favor and also work on like strategies to stop
mm,
movement. But I mean, just play the back to the front. The tempo is just not important enough anymore, and it's doubly. I mean, it's a wamba, right? So like, you want it as an interrupt so you can maintain tempo, but you can't use the guy once you use the test of
right,
courage.
it's about to be this point.
It's just gone.
This card always felt like the other side of refugees to me. In an environment without refugees, like so you're attacking into an honor deck and they refugees you test of
Yep.
courage and they got nobody there, so it doesn't matter that you can't target your guy, but this situation can't come up anymore. So I remember this card very, very fondly because there was a time when it was really good,
Used to
and
play 3 of it in all kinds of decks.
but not that time has passed.
Yep.
A Warrior of
Uh,
Brutality. Here's a card whose time has never been and will never come.
Right,
These
because opposed force bonuses are much weaker than unopposed force. I mean, if you give this unopposed, it's a whole different card. It's
right. Well,
better
then
than
it's
an expect.
totally total gas. But we've
Yeah, I
seen
mean, it's
this
super
card
super.
over and over again. Nobody played Bonsai. Nobody played Bonsai Cry. Nobody played a
Yep.
million different other effects.
Even something that has sort of doubled, like strength and subtlety, is sort of where people start with this kind of card. Where I get +2, you get -2. Like +4 force opposed is probably still wouldn't see play, but might be a big enough number to force people. And battles do come down more to counting force in 20 festivals in Ivory than they ever have before, but they still don't come down to counting force enough. This is a fine card to have, though, as a base set card. Like, this is battle, do something. It's a good, straightforward card for kitchen tables. It's a good, straightforward card to introducing people to L5R. So I'm fine with it in the base set, but this should never be in your constructed tournament deck, like, ever. There's just better effects.
Speaking of cards you should never play, here's Absolution. Worth noting that you cannot negate you cannot negate the new order, the one that you blow up your holding to increase honor by 10. So even if honor decks become really good and they need event meta for something like a time for action, they can't hit the one that really matters. It's karmic. I've played this card in like young sensei decks just to cycle really quick, but that's really
Yeah, I
really
mean,
corner
there was a
case.
3 minute period where I played it in like corrupt Fudo dueling to get around purges and stuff like that. I mean, if events become old events where there's Iris Festival type
Right.
things, then you might get forced into it. But for now, it's completely unplayable because
That's
there's not enough events. The events aren't good enough.
that's the flip side too. Like what you're gonna cancel Glimpse of the Unicorn. Like that's really what you're
Right.
bringing
I
to the
mean, it's
table.
just it doesn't have a home. I guess it'll probably see some. Well, let's see play some
No,
weird dually deck because for focus or something. But no, it's just events aren't good enough.
like karmic.
So
Yeah, as a blank
yeah,
card with karmic, it might see some play if there's some kind of weird young deck, but otherwise, no. Let's talk about accessible terrain. This is one of the cards I'm most excited from this set. I have really fond memories of this card with Onino Ugalu attack, play accessible, move all my guys in. And
sure.
it's a very powerful effect. It's a symmetrical effect. And obviously, terrains are worse than they were in the past. But, I mean, this is an absent to throw it down, and then you can, if you could get some easy provinces off of this. I can picture decks that go like attack with single naval Shugenja with a summon water kami. Like if you defend, I can like naval plot my thing. You can't move accessible, move my whole army and type stuff. Uh, yeah, I think it's a really cool card with a lot of
There,
flexibility.
there's there's a number of scenarios where this card is really interesting. First off, you can use it to you can do things like you play it at a battle that you're
Switch
not
to the
at.
the
Play
good
it
art.
absently. Maybe your opponent like moves the guy in, and then you're like, haha, I foolishly got you to move one of your guys to this battle. But then if they don't move in, you move your guy in, and they move a guy, and now it's worked as like a de facto sneak attack.
Mm-hmm.
I, I mean, there's a lot of what's the phrase? There's a lot of play to accessible
Absolutely.
terrain.
Yeah, there's some mind games to it too. Like if you send your whole army over here and resolve the other battle first and accessible, then they have to either
Yeah,
choose to give you the sneak attack or move a guy off the battle. Then you just pass and they feel dumb. I mean, I love this card. I think it's a really cool card.
you've talked about it in combo with the one unicorn guy where it sort
Yeah,
of
straightens all your
activates
stuff.
and rally cries and stuff. This is a cool card. Now it's going to end up in only a very small portion of actual decks because
Sure,
it
sure.
takes some workarounds to use, and a lot of people would rather just have the simplicity of common times or contentious terrains or
Right, but
simple
the thing
terrains.
about it is, though, is that it's a terrain, right? And terrain is easily
Yep.
toolbox card type right now, thanks to scouting amidst the snow. So I think that this will be a
Yep.
one-off in a number of decks, and people will really you'll be able to pull it out and really do some cool things with it.
Yeah, and I really like it as a what's there's a card called Open Roads that we liked for a minute as a sort of one off to
Mm-hmm.
and my guy back in. If you're playing against honor decks, accessible can be really potent because now
Absolutely,
your
honor and
opponent
dishonor.
has
Like, what are they gonna do?
yeah. Yep. So it's another one of these cards that's pretty great, and it's the offset for its pretty greatness is it's a terrain, and terrains are really easy to destroy these days.
Which
On
is
to
really
Alliance
funny. Alliance
Threatened, which
threatened, weird cavalry meta. I
yeah,
never
I mean
liked my
it's
package to be
packaged
conditional.
if they're cavalry. Um, Now, what's neat about it is that it's packaged if it's a cavalry card, like not it doesn't have to be a cavalry unit. So, like if your opponent removes their cavalry, you can still whack them with it.
Yeah,
I think this might see some play in honor decks,
actually,
like fortification or province strength
let
matters
me
decks. But
go the other way. I think I'm going to play this card quite a bit, and it's because of the second line. If you ever had presence, so I can go defend,
correct, send home.
strategic
Yep,
withdrawal, and then or like defend and oppression, and then play alliance
yep,
threat and -3, save the
and
province.
that yeah, and that's but I wasn't very high on giving a card an opposed +3 force. Now this you can sort of use this unopposed because you can trigger its opposite stuff. But with Courage Beyond Question existing in the format and with breaking the rhythm, I don't know how much I want to start trying to rely on this. -3 force is probably enough. It's probably big enough, and I think certainly this card will see play in some honor and dishonor deck.
We played tactical setback like crazy, and plus 3 force and minus 2 force are not all the same thing. So I
agree.
I don't think that this has any place comparing it to Warriors Brutality.
And I mean, if you're playing the sort of deck that plans on using a planned departure or diplomacy breakdown or strategic withdrawal or whatever the one that's like we each send a guy home with the courtier. Mm-hmm. Like if you're playing those effects, then Alliance 7 probably also fits into your deck.
Absolutely, and I mean, which is like every honor deck.
It's fine against cavalry stuff. Like this is a good card. I mean, it's very much playable and it will work. I don't want to get too excited over -3 force. I don't feel like that's where a lot of games are going to come.
I'm always excited for package. I mean, package enables Dirtles. I want to be Dirtle.
That's fair. We should mention when we say package, we're referring to absent battle actions. Just battle actions that do things to your opponent, like Outer Walls and Fields of Foolish Pride. There's this package of cards that you can just play, where you don't have to bother to defend and save your provinces. And Alliance set and qualifies. So.
Absolutely. So Active Disdain, this is a start of some of our weird courtier open stuff that you got to read a couple times.
Right, so this one is you have to blow up a courtier with high pH. High pH.
Right.
You can't blow up Demias, you can't blow up Atomo Teneji Renter courtiers, and it's for honor. I can see this card actually seeing quite a bit of play if Tsukahime Sensei Phoenix comes together, which we've talked about Phoenix being really pushed, and we like where Shugenja are positioned, but also I like that Stronghold very generically. Mm-hmm. And Tsukahime Sensei is this goofy sensei that didn't see much play because the -1 gold was really prohibitive. But with Forgotten Legacy stuff, I can see it sort of poised for a resurgence. And I can see a situation where I play this card and I blow up my courtier so then I can buy back my courtier with a stronghold. And game 3 honor is a big chunk. Now, they don't have to assign their guy and they don't have to resolve actions in his unit. But there's 2 things I want to mention. First off, just game 3 honor is a big chunk. So if you blew up your guy in game, like if there's a card that was like, if this card was wheels within wheels, but you blew your guy up in game 3 honor, it would be played in triplicate and all.
Yeah, automatically. Right.
Also, it's each time they do something. So if your opponent is feeling like saucy and maybe not a little off his game, and he like does something with his guy and assigns and then resolves an action on a card in his unit, and like you gain 6 honor, it's like the best card ever. So it's gonna see play. I just don't know if courtier honor. I like it most out of Phoenix for the rebuy. I guess you'll probably play it in like the Crane builds and stuff too. Though I don't know if they'll have enough courtiers that they can just keep blowing things up in this way.
Yeah, I mean, Wheels within Wheels isn't going anywhere, and I think that those guys are still going to want that card. So now you got 6 effects to blow up your own guys. It gets a little dicey.
A little bit more if you're doing Despot Sacks. But it's a fine card, and game 3 honor is...
honor is huge, yeah. So it's a card on my eye on, even just as a blow guys up enabler. But you're right.
Yeah,
Phoenix is absolutely the home for this card. It's a great card. Play it. Art of the Eye, of the Lie, or the Eye. Is that an L or an I?
I assumed it was an I, as an Iaijutsu.
It's not
so
Iaijutsu.
It's like but it's the first 3 letters of Iaijutsu. So Art of the Eye, like Iaijutsu.
Anyway, I've never liked these sorts of effects. I don't think
I feel like we already have this exact card. So it's one of those cards.
It's got the draw card line on Kensei.
Right. So if Kensei draw a card, and so it's another one of those cards that sort of makes the cost of drawing a card, though, I mean, I know you're playing 2 cards to get one, seem very cheap. Again, if it was unopposed, if you could just do it, I might be higher on it, though not much higher, because equipping your weapon as an open action when you think you're like there's no follow-up action. We've become so spoiled that we like if this has the follow-up action, it's a whole different card.
Well, you got the engage, so like that's kind of cool part of it.
I guess it's a fine card that I'll never bother to play because I don't value the sort of like surprise here's a weapon as much as other people do. In fact, I like depending on how you're playing, you might always just want to put your weapons down before you attack as kind of a bluff show of strength, right? Like I'm coming with this as well as a deterrent to get people to block. And you can only have, like, I'm playing the attachments that are eating up a fate slot. I then don't want to eat up a fate slot just as a way to put the attachment down. I mean, it doesn't reduce my gold cost. All it does is let me get one more card on the deal. It's just not. It's not good enough. And if it's not attaching to a Kensai, it's just 2-card disadvantageous. So.
Right. You can say, well, it replaces itself, so it's not really discard disadvantageous. But the counter argument is that you just attach your item and play a different card and have drawn that card instead.
Yep. So. Assassin's Strike.
This
card says destroy something, so it's a good card, right? Like, destroy a bowed card is good. You don't bow your card for it. I don't know if I can justify ever playing 3 copies of it, but certainly I'm never going to bat an eye when my opponent plays one because it's a card that says target a samurai and blow something up, and that's good.
Yeah,
the fact that it's additional blow something up that doesn't deter me at all because things have a way of getting bowed either through my actions or through their actions. I mean, Spider can just go, fear effect, and this is occurs released, 7, 4, 5, 6.
Yeah, this card is excellent. It doesn't care about attachments, so it's really dangerous for all these follower
Absolutely,
towers,
it's really
you talk about.
Yep. You bowed your guy who has 1,000,000 attachments, and now I can kill him even though.
Bam, Assassin's Strike. This is a card that can really keep those strategies in check. In concert with another one we'll see as we get down the action list a little bit. I think it's a very cool card. It's a very interesting card, and it's almost not playable. Like blowing up a bowed guy in battle is powerful on one hand because you can really get him sometimes, but on the other hand, it doesn't actually do anything. You're taking an action to blow up a guy who's not contributing force, who's not doing anything.
It's one of the cards, though, that in concert with, I think, Serenity, that like actually makes the trait of Samurai or the keyword of Samurai like turned on, pacify me the other, because we're so all in right now with Shugenja that I think it's important to be like, what do I get with Samurai? And I think this is one of the few cards. I do think it's a huge flavor fail that I can't use it with Ninja. I just doesn't that like look and feel like a ninja thing in Assassin's Strike?
Yeah, for sure. Like, that's just a quick name change. You could call it. I don't know. Yep. I don't know. Let's talk about Odd Witness. This is reasonable duel support. It's a bow the loser, gain force challenge.
Yeah, so Odd Witness is one of my absolute favorite duels. Came out in like dead of winter, and I really liked it then, and I really like it now. I mean, it's just a card that I enjoy. It felt like it's a cool thing to do. So bows a guy and makes a guy. I mean, somewhere down the line, you're going to see there's any number of duels that have been played in Ivory Edition 25 where there's just like, I win the duel and your guy is bowed. This is, I win the duel and your guy is bowed, and I get this cool, 2/4 samurai who doesn't go away. Like, he's my guy now forever.
Absolutely.
I like that. So, I mean, I really like Odd Witness as a card, and I think it's one of the better battle duels and one of the reasons to sort of be looking into dueling. And I have nothing to say. It's not as good. I don't have Death of Ryoshin or Benton's Blessing so that I get to redirect things over down to my little buddy. But this is a fine card.
Yeah, it's also 3 focus value. And sometimes some of the more push duels tend to be 2s. Certainly the lethal ones. So the fact that this does something and gains you force is pretty much all I can ask for in a duel these days.
Yeah, I mean, bow a guy plus gives me a guy. I don't know what else I'm hoping for my duel win anymore. Like, that's as good
not anymore. That's the thing. It's like, if I can't have steal on steal, I guess I'll take Odd Witness.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about balance.
Assassin's Strike meta, or I don't know, Touch of Death meta, or some other meta for some time in the future. These kinds of cards used to be good because the things that used to happen to bout people were much different. I don't see anyone bothering to play this card now. So
I see it as a tower. It's like a tower card out of Arani Sensei, where you can go attack with a guy with a bunch of followers and stuff, and then play your Sun Returns to cancel their first action. Then you can balance their next couple actions.
I mean, the card Control, I think, is going to be a card that a lot of people are putting into their decks because it's a really powerful card. I guess this is a great one for an answer for that. Okay, L5R players to reach into meta, it has to tend to be like the things it's trying to stop have to be incredibly overpowered, or or the meta has to also do something else, and this just doesn't qualify for me. I just don't see people ever putting this into their decks.
Maybe they'll reprint Shuichi XP in the next set.
Crossing my fingers.
Crossing my fingers. All right, let's pop on to
Okay,
Bonsai.
Bonsai!
The card I referenced this card when we were talking about Warriors Brutality. No one played Bonsai. No one played Warriors Brutality.
Yeah, so I hated this card when I saw it in Gates, or no, Discipline was after. So I hated this card when I saw it in Aftermath because it's just so terrible. And I mean, it was an edition time, and you just like to. But as a base set card, I'm fine with it because you want to introduce Discipline as a concept in your base set, and this is the simplest, easiest sort of thing you can do with Discipline. Again, if you can do it unopposed, then it would be a completely different card. It would be expansive achievement, but you can't, and you won't, and it's bad, and we'll move on.
All right,
so here we go. So Brazen Challenge is compare this to Odd Witness, right? And it's a common compared to a rare, but Brazen Challenge is I win the duel and I bow you, and then blah 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 blah. Whereas Odd Witness is like, hey, you also get this extra thing, and so
for sure.
The if you won by a million to me is just random flavor text. I just don't think that dueling is that bully-ish where you're winning that much. I mean, if you manage to activate it once out of every 22 games, good for you, man. But
focus values are all over the place too. There's no I haven't really noticed any action suites that are low focus value. So you go to duels, sometimes people will always be able to cobble together 4/4s if they want to.
And that's about it. So, I mean, you're playing a duel deck, and I guess this card says bow a personality. So, okay.
There's a lot of we're getting to a point where there's a good number of good duels. I don't think you need to be reaching.
I don't think this fits.
Let's talk about breaking the rhythm. This card was gas before, it's gas now. Play it in your decks.
Right. So this is one of those good dual support focus effect cards because it gains you an honor, and that's a nice thing to do if you're a dueling honor deck, and it gives you some force, which you don't really ever care about, but whatever. It's very flex, can negate bonuses or penalties. You don't have to play it as an interrupt, so you can use it on. There's a dance that happens now. I love Courage Beyond Question a lot as a card, but it's an interrupt, so if they have a force penalty or bonus that's unstoppable, it loses all of its value, whereas Breaking the Rhythm, you can play in those situations. Breaking's a good card, and it does what it does very well. Overwhelming Offense is one of the most potent battle actions in the format, and having answers to it will become critical, especially if you're, say, a lower force kind of dueling deck. So This is good.
Yeah, this is an excellent card. I think Paul covered everything. As far as overwhelming offense goes, you can meta both parts of the card by both not playing fortifications and playing Breaking the Rhythm.
So Bridging the Gap is a 4 focus value terrain, and I don't know, part of me just hates seeing terrains have above 1 focus value. I like the tradition of it all. +4 strength is for honor decks, I guess. I would never bother because military decks always have some answer to terrains, but maybe you play this as a way to draw out their terrain hate to then play come one at a time.
Yeah, I was about to make the same point. I kind of like it. Defend early with a guy, play bridging, run home, and then in the 3rd or 4th battle, play your come one. I think the decks tend to be playing only 4 to 6 terrains or terrain answer cards. So.
Some decks play even less than that. So I mean, you might be able to if I'm playing an honor deck, Bridging the Gap could probably save me a province. The issue is it's only good so it has no value with military decks. I think we can all agree there. It's only for honor dishonor decks, and it only has value in the first 2 attacks because after that their force tends to just be irrelevant. Right? I mean, it's just sort of after I can save the first province, save the second province, at which point they're attacking me. If they attack with all the units, it tends to be a number in which +4 province doesn't save the day. Not with just bridging. You'd have to have a flashy technique plus bridging plus some other number of cards.
You couldn't see toolboxing this as a one-off in a Crane Scouts deck. So against Lion, when I'm going second, I can tutor it up with a scouting, play
I
it, and win
could,
that
but
battle.
I think I'd be much more likely to have like the terrain that gives me versatile or open roads or accessible terrain. Like there's even in a toolbox shell, at some point your toolbox is filled, and I think that
Okay.
bridging the gap is pretty low on my list. And now we move on to sort of a cycle of katas, and this is the one that if they're gonna shoot me with ranged attacks, it bows my guy with spells.
All right. I see the need this card fills. I've played these Shugenja decks with a bunch of Zero Force idiots, and then you come across like Pew Pew Mantis and just roll your eyes. Um, the
Is this
problem is always you have to play the card,
right? Is
burst the
it
arrows aside.
better or worse than the spell that messes with it? To me, it's
A
strictly
billion
worse. I'd
times
rather
worse.
just
Oh yeah,
have
it's
the
a
spell.
billion times worse. But it's not a
But I
spell.
get
You don't gotta be
you
there. You
don't.
just toss it out there, and
Yeah,
there it is.
right. I
Um,
mean, the guy with the spell doesn't have to be there, so that's
yeah.
not. Yeah, okay. I'm never playing this card. I think that katas as ranged attack meta or something like that aren't interesting to me.
No, I
Even
agree.
even a guy who plays decks with tons of spells. Okay, on to one of the big hits of the set, one of the chasey rares of the set, building contract.
I've talked about this card at length and sort of in passing for other things, so I don't know how much more there is to say. Ignore the fortification part. There was a really interesting YouTube comment on one of our YouTubes about how building contract is just going to be a trash rare because the commenter was really focused on the fortification part of it and saying
Right.
like, well, okay, well your non-fortifications go up by one, so I don't know. Okay,
That makes everything sort of inefficient
but it doesn't, and you don't
because
care.
you can always get clan holdings, right?
You can always get clan holdings. You can always get coastal lane. You can always get trading grounds. There's a million different things you can get with it. Even if you are getting an
Yeah,
inefficient holding, like if you do a thought experiment, say if there's an action, pay 1 gold, like get a fifth province for a turn, would you play that? And absolutely you would.
exactly. So like Unicorn can use it after their first turn to just get coastal lane. Like they can have just one coastal lane and a 40 kuta deck. Like they can do that. And other people can just do things like pay 6 gold to get a cloth market. I mean, there's a lot. I like it as just like Bow Clan holding, get a clan. I mean, it's a really good card. I don't know though. Gold schemes might become so fluid once we crack them with Forgotten Legacy that it becomes kind of a redundant card. But
That's
it's never
fair.
redundant. It's never too redundant because like you always want to get holdings out of your deck,
That's the
right?
thing. It's
That
like the gas of
like
building
if you're
contract
playing
is that.
Temple of Destiny, you can go like bow it to get a Temple of Destiny. It did a cycle, plus you
Mhm.
picked up the whole thing. I feel like this is a card a lot of people should be experimenting with. The only reason I can see it not being in decks is that gold just like once we get your gold seam settled, it becomes so smooth and fluid that you just don't need to waste a fate card dealing with it.
Well, it's not about smoothing your goals game. It's about smoothing your turn five dynasty flips. And
Sure.
so the thing about building contract is that if your provinces, so say you have a 3 for 3 in province, I would play the building contract and get a clan holding, and then flush the 3 for 3 just
Yeah.
to thin your deck down. And so
That just
that's part
keep
of the power of this card.
part of the
Um,
charm. And
the problem
in
with this
auto
card is that
decks
it's
that play
right.
fortifications, I
And
feel
that's the other
like is
side.
like there is decks that will play fortifications, and they'll use this to dig out poorly placed gardens, and those decks also play progressive, and this is a 4 focus value. So I mean, it's a
Yeah.
good card that will see play. I don't know if it will be the auto include that some people seem to have suggested it would be. We're not there, but we're pretty high on its stock in general.
Right. I need to do some testing. The problem with the card is that it's a miserable turn 5 6 top deck.
Sure.
And so I don't know. The thing is, I tend to play cards that don't play decks that don't live or die by their top decks. So that's why I love it. I'm going to be playing it quite a bit. I'll report back. I'll write an article, inshallah.
And on to civil discussion. This is one of those courtier honor lost cards. It's not a destroy though. It's just a target your courtier, and then when you attack me, honor is lost. But it's not just when you attack; it's when you assign. So I can combo with my ninja guy that forces assignment. But there's only like the one unit, so that it's just make you lose one honor, which probably isn't enough. But I don't know. It's a good card. It's probably a card that a lot of people want because it's a fate card that says make your opponent lose honor.
Mm-hmm. Make your opponent lose a lot of honor too.
Well,
Like
yeah, I mean,
3 points is a ton of honor.
it is, and it can absolutely stop them from attacking for a turn
Yeah.
at the right moment.
Like,
And it's just the rubbins for Spider. I don't want to talk about it. I mean, it's a fine card. I don't like these kinds of cards, or I don't like to play a lot of copies of these kinds of cards because I don't love the sort of conditional honor loss nature of them. Because I feel like sometimes my opponent should attack, and sometimes I really don't want him to attack, and I don't like playing cards and then hoping my opponent makes one decision where I want him to make the other decision. But it's a good card, and it forces your opponent to make the right decision, and putting him to the test is always a fine thing to do.
yeah, I mean, my Dishonor decks are all playing Walking the Way, so I can play one copy of this and be really happy. What I want to know though is the guy in the spear in the background. Is that photoshopped in from the defensive or Iron Defenders? I feel like this is 3 pieces of art photoshopped together.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I can tell by the style that it's a Death of Coton thing, which is from the comic, and I don't know what's up with the stupid fish in the background.
All right, I
I've
don't want to
never
look at
known.
this card anymore. Next one. Clash
Okay.
of Blades. Here's another goofy duel. This one's a 4 focus value because it doesn't bow. It's just permanently removing all abilities, which is not nothing. But
Yeah, so I mean, it's a combination. It's one of these 1,000 paper cut things. It's like it's an open duel, and that makes it good. And then it dishonors your guy, it dishonors the loser, and that's an effect. And it removes the abilities, and that's an effect. And it gains you an honor. So like you're gonna see this card all over the place in duel decks because it's just sort of like it does all these things. The problem is none of those things are really that exciting. I mean, dishonoring them, gaining an honor to set up your Hakuseki Sensei or your Yodo Sensei deck. Okay, whatever. Permanently removing all abilities to me is the payoff,
yeah,
and that's good and probably good enough. But I'm not sure I wouldn't rather just have victory through deference in battle, which is also a 4 focus value, removing some cards and drawing a card and sort of continuing on this way.
for sure. This regard reminds me a
But it's
lot
just
of
permanent,
Fire and
so
Thunder, Thunder and Lightning, whatever the one from really late Lotus was, the promo duel,
sure, Flame and Lightning, yeah.
Flame and Lightning. But that got traits too. It was really important in that environment. I just don't know what this is hitting.
Also,
Like you just
also
take it
you
away
could
by
play it with
election.
somebody and like kill someone. Like that was kind of worth
Well,
mentioning.
yeah, that too. But and there might be some cool stuff you can do with this card. Open duels are always powerful. I'll have my eye on it. I'm sure, like you said,
Yeah,
people will play
permanently
it, but
removing abilities is where you get your value from, and that is value. Like there are
mm,
cards that do things that will be annoying you. You know, turning Shiho into just a 3/3 guy for 4 might be what you want to do. So
you rolled your eyes at the Yodo Sensei thing, but I mean, this is game 2 off of Yodo. That's not nothing.
I know I rolled my eyes because those senseis aren't exciting to me. But no, I think this is absolutely in sort of Hakuseki dual sensei decks and that kind of thing. I don't feel those decks are worth mentioning right now.
Sure. Concealed Archers. This is a great table. This is a great kitchen table card. I loved these effects when I was a kid, first learning to play L5R. Now that
Sure.
I'm Spike Jesse, I don't have any time for them.
The fact that you can do it from home, right? It's like, oh, you set my ranged attack guy home. Wow, concealed archers, and yeah. So
Yeah.
I don't ever envision myself playing this, but I mean, I guess it lets you do it a second time, so you can shoot something, send your own guy home, and then do it.
Why? No, why? You can't do that. Why can you? What?
Just take an additional ranged attack action from your target card in a unit. So
Yeah, it
like,
still has to meet legality from the additional action. It doesn't
does it?
say, yeah, no, you can't do
Okay.
your thing again. I'd play that
So
card, but no, this card I have no
no fun
interest.
for me. It's too much setup just to trigger my ranged attacks. I just assign my guy or move my guy back in. I don't need him at home. I don't
Yep.
need that.
All right, Conservation. What was the card from Late Diamond or like Lotus that did basically the same effect? It had to shuffle in, draw cards. I meant to look it up.
I think it was also a conservation, right?
No, this is
Some
a new
kind.
card. But anyway, we've seen
No,
this
but
effect before.
it was conserve your strength. It was the first set
Conserve.
after Lotus. And it was the exact same thing for the attachments, only it was like it wasn't limited at 2. You could like have 17 attachments in the draw.
Right. So that's why it was so bonkers. That card was
Yeah.
totally nuts. So this card is less so, but I'm still going to play this card a lot. This effect is really powerful. The being able to
Yeah,
substitute
I
stuff.
really like conservation because I mean I like I shuffle my decks, I draw cards equal to the attachments. That's all great, and it sort of thins your deck out. It is card draw, card advantage, and moving your deck through. But I also really like this interrupt.
Right, that's the thing, is that the interrupt's great, and it's a courage card too. So this card just kind of does everything.
Yep.
And so I really like it. I'm going to be playing this card quite a lot.
Because, Unholy Strike is not ranged. It's totally a melee. And this thing will turn those Unholy Strikes into less Unholy Strikes. So
That's it. They'll just be, I don't know, what's less than unholy. All right, Control. I love Control. It was my favorite of the cycle.
Is a card that will frustrate players a lot. I mean, if you thought official sanction was a problem, wait till you get a load of just I pay 3 gold and your guy never straightens. It's like, yeah, this card is awesome, and it's. I don't know if it will eventually result in people splashing Open Phase Bow just to get through it. But this is a really great card for honor decks and dishonor decks and control decks and military decks and maybe enlightenment decks, and that's pretty much all the decks. So I don't know what else to get you. I mean, 3 gold to shut down a unit isn't as powerful as it once was because units are cheaper and there's more of them out there. But 3 gold is still, you're still shutting down a unit for 3 gold, and that's And that's, I mean, just against military decks where they've bowed out from taking your province and say, okay, now that guy doesn't get to play here anymore.
Yep.
And that without even getting into synergies with other more like try to kill all your guys and do all the things and bow the stuff decks. Just as a splashed card, Control is good, and it can be great when other things line up and come together for it. So
yeah, and that's always where it shined. It always shined as a splash. It's a sort of soft control effect. It's not killing your guy. It's like an extortion effect.
Yeah, it's a fair effect too. I mean, it's hard to be like, oh man, a guy hit me with control, and that's so unfair. And it is one of those cards though, when it's spammed out in multiples, it can feel really unfair.
Yeah, well, in this day and age we live in, this is the best. We don't get extortion. We don't get.
Yeah.
We don't get call out assassin. We get control, and so I'll take what I can get. This is a really powerful effect. These are the kind of effects I get out of bed for.
I really think the place for this card is going to be like soft control the honor decks combined with official sanctions. I feel like that is 2 great base that tastes great.
The next step is just to figure out a way to recurse the card.
Yep.
But I'll work on it.
Hey, Death on the Winds! It's
back. I did not expect this one to be back, but it is. It was awesome then. It's awesome now.
Back. Yep, it's a great card. I don't really know what else to say about it. It's one of the things that make you want to play Tacticians, play Arani Sensei, get your cards, get your kill effects or your toolbox. And we're actually at a point now. I think more toolboxy strategies are going to come together because the type of effects you want and the type of cards out there, the number of cards with like split that are like going different ways. Toolboxing becomes more and more interesting. So go Death on the
unless you play a core set of really powerful cards, your Serenities and whatnot, and then a bunch of cards like Death on the Winds and Scouting Amidst the Snow to go find the effects you actually want.
Great card. Kind of a dud rare because everybody has a million copies of Death on the Winds.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't. There's a lot of text. This card is just dishonor meta. That's all it is. The dual stuff, like, it'll never work, right? It's just dishonor meta. That's all it is.
If all their guys are bowed, and you play this card targeting your
it's got to target a samurai. So right off the bat, you're like.
I can get Puku.
Yeah, but you're not going to. So like, let's not pretend that that's the thing that's good. This is dishonor meta, and as dishonor meta goes, it's fine because I play it and I can target my unbowed samurai, and they probably will not
accept.
Yeah. And it's worth mentioning that you don't have to issue the challenge. So, like, if they have a guy that will win the duel, you just play Defend Your Honor, and it still negates it, right? Do you accept? If the player refuses or loses,
issue a challenge. No. Before it causes you an honor loss, negate it, and your samurai may then issue a challenge. So you're right.
And
You can't just
then
negate and
after
say
the
no.
duel, if we had a duel or if they refused, like they'll lose some more like incidental points of honor and a guy will die. But that
Right.
stuff generally doesn't come up.
Right.
So,
No, yeah, it's a very good
but
point. It's fine honor.
it's just dishonor meta, and dishonor's good, and so people might look for really straight aggressive meta for it, and this fits that bill. So okay, but
My problem with this effect is that dishonor goes in slower chunks. It's like 1, 2, 2, 1, 2.
yeah, you're
This
not
card probably
hitting.
great when shame was legal.
It was a card some people felt they almost had to play when shame was legal.
Nowadays, you're not hitting 7 points. You're hitting 2 points, and that's a lot less exciting.
Yep.
So just keep that in mind. Defensive Technique is another Kensei card. What's interesting is that in theory, if Kensei have a weapon, they should be too big for melee and ranged attacks, right?
But we know that that's not true, right? We know there's lots of little. Can we? I feel like I mentioned this more than I should, but man, there's some really terrible rares. I just.
Oh, this is a rare.
And this is like, you open your pack and you get a defensive technique. Like, what a dud. Okay.
The opposed line too. Like I gotta give him a stupid weapon, and he's gotta be opposed all for +2 force. Like just let me have it. Just, can we please let people attack on turn 3?
Having said that, I mean, if they manage to like make a ranged attack and have an unholy strike, this can be your total shell type blowout.
For
but
sure.
That means I'm playing defensive technique. So
Also, turtle shell still in, everybody.
That's it. That's it.
Like you don't need an unbowed weapon, and you don't need to bow. You don't need to Kensei. Just play turtle shell. Like it's all good. Like we can revisit this card in a year when those cards are no longer legal. But for now, turtle shell is legal.
Yep.
All right, let's talk about a good rare. Desperate Sacrifice.
Yep.
This is not as good as other forms of sacrifice, but it'll do.
Right. So one thing I love about it, or I feel compelled, is it's destroy your target courtier, not unbowed courtier. So your courtier could have been there and done other things and been bowed, and you still get value out of it. And it's a bow and then a send home, and it can't stop the send home. It's good. It's a really solid card. And
the rock can't stop the rock.
Yes, exactly so. And I mean, you've blowed up your personality to trigger this ability, so you hope it would be good. But hey, it is. So you go courtier honor, courtier dishonor. Like here's a defensive card.
Yeah, I predict Otomo Teneji taking a lot of hits for the team in the coming months.
He's sacrificing himself desperately quite often.
He's gonna be looking for crane guys. Like, could you please come on, man? Like, I put on my white coat here. Can you just cut me? And they will every time. Yeah, this card's excellent. It's an auto 3 of in every honor and dishonor deck.
Yep.
Not much else.
Got to save your provinces somehow, and here's that way. And you defend with the one guy, and then they can't do like movement that requires opposition. So,
yep,
just good stuff.
Speaking of care,
yeah, I don't know. There's no speaking. I was gonna say speaking of just good stuff. I hate this card. I hate it.
Speaking of just good stuff, here's the opposite.
So on the one hand, we were very high on Victorious Wave Man, and we like cards like Frontier Farmers, and this is like, if you just look at this and squint, it feels like, hey, it turns all of my cards into those kinds of cards where like I play them and they die, and then I can replay them. The thing is, it comes to my hand and I can't put it down right away unless it like naturally has reserve, and a lot of the times, once they've blown it up and then they're in the course of winning the battle, that the battle is the thing that matters. And so by the time I reattach my followers, it's not actually that helpful. And I can only use it once. So it's just like,
Yeah.
I'm way off. I'm over here on this card.
Effects like this always seem okay, and I keep making the same point over and over again that you have to put it in your deck and you have to play it, which is a problem. Because it means you have to draw it at some point, and the first copy is great, and you say, okay, it's got Karmic, but Karmic doesn't help you when you top deck it in the 3rd or 4th or 5th turn. So I'm a little loud on it. My question with this card, though, is so this card Gunso I'm really high on says, after this follower is destroyed, give -1 force to all units. If I interrupt with this, is he no longer destroyed, and I do not get the -1 force?
Yeah, no, it's a substitution effect, right? So it's not destroyed.
I think they might have some corner case uses here and there. for these types of things if cards care about being destroyed. And like with the windy spell, I have a certain amount of control over what they can kill, so I can like wind my thing over here and you blow up my band of brothers and I play my band of brothers again type stuff. Like in my head, there are cases where this card can get good because bouncing things back to your hand is good. The problem is
Yep.
that getting to those places probably never actually happens. It's just an
And
on
it's one of those
paper.
cards where the small things matter. If I could use it, if they cut off that first prefatory clause, if there was none of that, if
Oh
the
yeah,
action of
if it
another
wasn't
player,
there, then we'd
we'd be
probably
looking for
get.
ways to blow up our own followers and bring them back to our hand and trigger their entering into play effects. But
Oh yeah,
we we
we
can't have
can't.
nice things.
We
So.
can't have nice things. But
Directing the battle is almost a nice thing. It's not as good a death on though. It's 4 gold, where 2 gold is
two goals,
cheaper
yeah,
and
cheaper than
therefore
four.
much better. Also, that card has a high focus value in a deck that can leverage high focus values and has synergies with high focus values. Directing the battle saw some fringe play, and I think it might seem some fringe play again, but probably never in triplicate unless it's some wacky combo thing that hasn't come together yet. The problem is that non-unique battle strategies generally aren't powerful enough as they once were, where you want to take the gold cost hit and the tempo hit and the sort of card disadvantage just to search it out. Also, we love Shugenja. We can just play Walking the Way on our Backhand Girl and get the card we want beforehand and just
Yeah,
be done with it.
yeah. This card is almost always getting a come on to time. It's the most powerful non-unique battle action.
Right,
I
and it's
can't
only
even
so
think of
one.
any other one single non-unique battle action. I actually can. There's like the legendary victory I can envision. That's like a build around card I could think about a little bit. But
Sure.
that's reaching. And like you said, I think this card is fringe playable. I remember Jim Chatham played it in one of his early builds of Encircled Terrain, Scorpion, Dishonor, and it was a fine deck. But I think this is a cool
Now
card
I
though. I think
now I
this
have
is
scouted him in the snow, so I don't even
right,
need to
right,
pay
right.
gold.
This effect used to be locked on only to the tacticians with substrat, and now I always liked that you could just pay some gold and get your card.
Yep. I don't begrudge its place in the set. I don't say it's not a card that does a good effect. I don't think right now there's a place for it in
Just
constructed
because it's not,
decks.
there's nothing really powerful to get. If you were playing,
Yeah,
if Into the Darkness
yeah,
was legal, then you'd be directing the battle
exactly
like
so.
crazy.
Yeah, when I need to fetch out my Aijutsu duel, suddenly I'm all
Right,
over the
exactly.
place.
All right, Explore Territory is a
Hey,
card I've
Exportura,
loved. I've loved this
I
card
played
at
it
different
a
points.
lot for a long time, and now it also has the bonus of blowing up other terrains, though it also can, be
Itself be
blown up.
blown up. I think that I'll find like this definitely goes in my toolbox in my scouting against the snow stuff. It loses some stock because singular big units aren't any good,
Yep.
but it's still, I mean, draws you a card, cancels their action. Like this card does everything you want it to do. If you're in the market for this card, it's excellent.
Yep, it's to me at best a toolbox card because so many battles are about I killed this thing and then send that thing home and then bow that thing over here. Then I straighten this thing and move my guy back in. Battles don't have the same level of lethality that they once did, or
But that's
at least
great. That's a
so
strike for Explode, not against.
so far that's sort of how it's been. But I Explodes it's a fine terrain and I don't. I mean, I feel like it's a good card.
This is a card
I
that
don't.
yeah that benefits a lot from the terrain change that you can chain these together. If I
Yep.
have multiple explorers and I go play my explorer, you blow my guy up. I go blow up my explorer to play explorer.
Absolutely.
So I like it. I'll be putting this into military decks here and there. Certainly
Yeah,
looking
and
to
I
play
mean,
scouting in Mr. Snow.
there's some number of decks whose only effects are like I try to kill you with ranged attacks, and like if you play an export against them and they don't have an answer for it, and they just have to try to plow their way through it, like
Yep.
that can get away from them really quick. So False Trail is man, I remember False Trail. I remember playing False Trail, and now I feel what was happening. Right? Like this is a card that we played. It was an End of Diamond card. It was played
Yep.
in some loaded decks, and it came back with the art that you see here in Samurai. And I don't think it
Yep.
was ever played at all in Samurai, and it's because there's just more better battle actions. There's more better ways to move your opponent's personalities.
There's the
And
Lotus
the
Art.
focus effect isn't that interesting. So Nobody's touching False Trail, I don't think, anymore. I think this card's just been passed.
Yeah, this card was great out of Arani's Landing. Uh,
Sure. The Rady
and
deck?
yeah,
Yeah.
the raid deck where you could move their guy away and then get your 4 gold and lock them down with Itsui, and then all the wheels fall off the card for your opponent. But those times have passed. I don't think, like you said, anybody's gonna be reaching for this card. There might be some shenanigans with Enlightenment that I'm not seeing. I'm not even gonna
I
speculate. I think
move a guy to another. Yeah, you can no. Hey,
yeah,
Feign Death. This is another one of those cards that once was played like crazy, and you still understand it's good. It still feels really good. I mean, it's an Emperor Edition card, and it was played in Diamond, but like
yeah. It was a
now it's kind of yeah. I mean, I love Feign Death. I'm never gonna be unhappy to see it. But you know how nobody played it in Emperor Edition? I think we might see a little bit more play in 20 festivals, but not a lot more play.
Feinde's power was always as a goofy combo card with entering play effects.
Yeah.
So its power level is going to turn entirely on what sort of come into play stuff we get. The fact that a lot of them are interrupts now, so you can't do it multiple times per turn, and just the fact that we don't have anything like uh, Shukimi that gives out a -1/-1 token, or Onino
Yeah, I mean,
Chimichanga that gives -2/-1/2
so
tokens.
with Emperor, they stopped the nonsense of feign death in your opponent's guy as a way to like have them have a dishonored guy. So like that's long gone. Um, we still have Rattling Raiders. Like Rattling Raiders feign death was something that
Yeah, and
happened.
that's something. It's just that you got to play the Raider, then you got to get him killed, and then you got to play the Flame
Yeah.
Death. The guys aren't what they used to be. It's not as huge. You don't have your Hida Kuan XP2 to feign death and keep your 12 force guy around. It's a fine
Having
card,
said
but
all, having said that, everybody has to proclaim guys now, so the 2 honor hit doesn't disrupt. Like there was a period of time where honor wrecks were this costing control mechanism. And now that you're proclaiming all the time, once you've bought a guy, you can probably afford to use a feign death at least once. So I kind of love it still because I mean, personalities have a way of dying and bringing them back, and I mean bringing them back right now in this battle and moving them in. That could be a really powerful sequence. So I like feign death, finding space for it amid reactive cards versus proactive cards, cards that prevent me from losing the battle badly versus cards that allow me to just win the battle. Like that's always this tug of war, this dance that's going back and forth. But I like feign death.
I love feign death. But I just don't think I'm going to be playing it that
Can't
much.
can't be played off battle resolution in any form at all now.
Yeah.
So I mean, I that weakens it a little bit too.
Fainting maneuver.
Yeah, this is so. There's so much move back in, and this is just the one for tacticians.
I think every keyword has sort of gotten one now. I just hear you
Right, I
go.
think tacticians even had a different one that I think gave them a force bonus that may or may not still be in. But the card that the reason this card matters is put a battle strategy in your discard pile into your hand. That's the part I care about, and that's here's my best card, and I get to pick it back up, and I can do it in an unopposed battle and play it again. And
Yeah.
what's the card you want to pick up? It's gonna depend, but if there's if the card was good once and you played it, you might want to play it again.
Serenity or Lion's Roar. Just
Yep.
keep taking those big range attacks. Yeah, I think this card will see some play. I don't know if it's a 3 of, but I think it's certainly a 1 or a 2, and I'm thinking
Uh,
about the mid-range Lion deck. It'll be just fine in that deck.
and there was a period of time where I'd see this and be like, I'll pick up my Victory Through Deference, and that's how I'll always beat Shugenja decks. Obviously, Victory Through Deference works against a card like Fainting Maneuver because your discard pile has a way of getting empty, but okay. I mean, you want to re-pick up your something, and you grab it, and okay. They cock blocked us a little bit. Like I can't really pick up my controls or my touch of death or something like that. But it's getting cards out of your discard and replaying them is fine.
Mm-hmm. And you don't. So controlling the battlefield has that clause about if there's an enemy. This does not. So you can do
Correct.
you attack, I defend over here, play my fainting maneuver, set up my next attack. And that makes me like the card a lot more.
Yeah, and like blitz decks can play it. It comes to your hand, so like you can do a situation where like I attack you, I play my Inspired Devotion, I pick up my Inspired Devotion. It comes to my hand, so then I can play it again because it was face down and out of play, and so the
Mm-hmm.
memory went away. So I mean, this lets you get like in your big slugfest battle where I'm going and you're going and I'm going, and it's like I play this card and it's really good, and then I can just go like pick that card back up and play that card again.
Yeah,
All good stuff.
absolutely. All good stuff.
Fist of the Earth has no good stuff. I have nothing to say. Play Palm Strike. Play other cards that bow things. I don't. Bowing your thing to bow a thing is terrible. It's just bad and done.
Without followers is such a rub-in. So let's just keep going.
I
Gaining an
mean,
edge.
so more movie
More
stuff.
like I said, every keyword just gets its own little movie card. This one has a high focus value, and it
Yep.
straightens, so it gets a little bit more stock, but it's still an opposed movement. Come or back to the front remains the gold standard for these cards. If you're a high honor faction, if you're a low honor faction, you also like reaching for thrill of daring. So these
Yep.
sorts of effects really get pushed out just by the environment in
The
which they
Genja
exist.
one was disciplined. Home to a
Right,
Razor's Edge.
Honda
Also,
Razor's Edge, yeah, also really good. So
the this one, the thing about this was like if the duelist, so like it lets you play offense, defense with your dually attack decks, and that's fine. And so maybe you'll play it because it's also other. But yeah, I mean, just you know, I'm done.
I
So
mean, back to the front.
Genpuku.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Let's talk about it. All right, Genpuku is this and Oath of Fealty are two cards that I'm really concerned about being in the set. They're these cute, very L5RE cards that you read them and you say, "Oh, isn't that neat?" But
Yep.
all they are is combo fodder. This
I
card's
agree.
especially
When
dangerous because
Genpuku
School
is
of
seen
Wizardry is in.
play, yeah, when Genpuku's seen play, it is not. It is doing things that you don't really want your game to have happen.
Yeah, exactly. So with Genpuku, I'm already thinking about something like School of Wizardry with Genpuku and Oath of Fealty on a Goju Saito lets you melee 5
Yep.
every single turn. You know, you could his invest goes up permanently, but he'll be like 77 gold, and you just use your School of Wizardry and buy him out again, and then you shoot somebody, and then you kill him, and then recurse,
Melee
recurse,
vibes forever and ever.
forever and
Yeah.
ever. And like I mean, that's that's silly, but it's just an
That's what.
example of what I'm saying here. This card
Yeah.
only exists to cause problems.
I agree every which way. I can see it. You know, you have your ninja-based dueling deck with your 5-chi Aurora, and now you give him Samurai, so he can now play this whole other subset of duels that he wouldn't have been able to play because he was a ninja, not a samurai. And these are the kinds of things that happen with Genpuku. And maybe there's not enough payoffs to these combo startups, but Genpuku is just a troublesome card, and it's
Right, and so that's the thing is like you can come back to us and say like, look, guys, those combos suck, and you might be
yeah,
right,
none of this is good. Yep, and they might never come together. That
and they
happens
might,
sometimes.
but the
Sometimes you're
point is that
constantly.
there's no normal like I attack on 3 4 5 deck that wants Genpuku. It doesn't exist. So the
Exactly so.
card exists to be a cute look into Rokugani culture, and that's really cool, and I like that a lot. The problem is that the effect is incredibly problematic.
Yep, like as a mechanical thing, this card when it ends up being a played card, it ends up being a played card in problem decks, and it's probably better to just leave it off into the sidelines. Not that we're complaining because we love doing wacky stuff.
Absolutely. Grasp the Swords. This was a card that Kensei were dearly missing after the rotation to strength. Now they have it back. Woohoo.
Yeah, I mean, I like it as a way to get in early toils and put a cheap weapon down and gain force for Blitz. I like it for Blitz and Blitz alone and nothing else. And yeah,
Yeah, I mean, Kensei needed it as just force generation, and as Blitz, it's probably better, but there's not a lot to say about it. It's unopposed force. You need to jump through a couple hoops to get it, but I'm willing to jump through those hoops, especially with all the 2 gold weapons we have now.
Hidden Storehouse. This is a card that I played in some decks. I tried really hard to make it a good card, and I wasn't really at all successful. I like that it's, I spend 3 gold. The problem is that you know, at the end of the day, I spent 3 gold to draw a card, but I had to jump through the hoop of having less cards than my opponent. And I mean, the Mantis Stronghold is just so much better, you know.
Yeah, I know. It's tough to stack up
It,
to the Mantis Stronghold, but this is a card that I play in Mantis a lot.
yeah, I mean, I've played it, and I'll maybe try it again. It's just it had never ended up being the card that I want. Spending gold in battle, having to have already played out something like
It's a very
the
expensive
idea
card.
of I put down some attachments and I attack and I play Hidden Steel Hearts, and then you just draw more attachments, but then you can put the attachments down, but you spent the gold to play the card. It was just never. There's easier, better ways to just flow through my Fate deck now, and a lot of times there's a redundancy of effects in how you construct your Fate deck, where it's like I don't need to bother playing cards to dig me into other cards. I can just play the action cards that I want. I can just play the attachment cards that I want.
Which is it's a really salient point that just play gas is extremely good advice. And a lot of times
Yep.
people, and that's a problem with a lot of these directing the battles and the other tactician card rules
Scouting to
like
make the
that.
sows and Death of the Winds, all of them, right? Like you can just play the cards you want to draw instead of having to play the cards to dig for the cards.
So right, you really have to honestly look at your deck and say, have I reached the point where I'm at the filler? Like, or are any of these cards so good that I need to draw them versus anything else? And I mean, even a card like Serenity, we say, oh yeah, we get Serenity, we play Serenity over and over again. It's just an unstoppable range 3. Like, come
Right.
on, calm down.
There's other, yeah, you can have other effects that do the same thing. So hidden strength. This is one of the dually interrupts. Now it does have that invest 1, draw a card if you're a duelist. So here we go once again saying that like slight, you know, cheaper rate than Karmic. Yeah, and you get the interrupt. I guess we're not dual aficionados enough yet in 20 festivals to know if this is something that we care about, forcing the opponent to you rip a card from his hand off the top of his deck. It helps you win duels if you're lower, some sort of Ring of Fire thing.
Yeah. Well, there's another card specifically for playing the Ring of Fire that has a similar
Yeah,
effect.
Walking with Fire, yeah.
This one is just to allow you to trigger your focus effects, as far as I'm concerned. This is a card that says I'm playing a Strength Remains deck, and you will never focus, so I never get a chance to play the stupid card. So here I'll play Hidden Strength, and now you have to focus, so I get to focus my thing and do my effect.
Okay. And if focus effects become powerful, and we've talked about this before, that maybe we'll be really interested in this effect. But right now, this is nothing to me.
Yeah, I mean the
Maybe
problem
you
is that
play it in
at
that sort
best you're
of
running
like,
3
I'll invest
copies.
it 1, and yeah.
Yeah, and like Strength Remains is an incredibly powerful card. Like I mean, I played tons of Sorrowful Prayers, and it's
Yep.
close. It's even better because it can shuffle itself back in over and over again. It's just
But it
that
increases its size, so I guess you need to have cards like this that you can invest to like try to get to them.
right. Yeah, if only I could figure out a way to build a deck that draws
Yes,
through
sir.
itself quickly and efficiently. I mean, it'd be like a deck with like a Moru and cards like this and Hidden Strength, and then open duels, just whatever open duels you can come up with that force them to focus. So you can focus your thing, and you just again just draw some more cards, and then get to some sort of kill effects. Probably just the lethal duels like
Weakness
do not
exposed.
well, like do not delay
Oh, I see what
with
you're
your
saying. Yeah.
Amoru. So like
So,
the thing you're building to is where your loop would be hidden strength, like 1 hidden strength, 1 strength remains, and 1 like do not delay, and then you shuffle those back into your deck and then try to draw them again. So you're setting up an infinite loop.
okay, well, that's. I mean, I feel like most people aren't going to look at hidden strength and think this card will help me with the strength remains into my hidden loop kill all the guys dual deck. I feel like you may be in a different place than most dual decks.
Right. So in a conventional dual deck, I don't see what value this card has. Like
Okay.
because all it's doing is forcing them to activate your focus effects and like except for strength remains, focus effects are just like cheesy, gain some force, like gain 1 honor. Who cares?
I also just, as a rule, I hate cards that force my opponent to focus and force us to go through this machinations of the game. I'm not a fan of them from a player perspective. I just dragging out the gameplay, making people feel sour.
Hold the walls. We've seen this
Oh,
card a number of
oh.
times. We've seen this card better actually.
Yeah, this
Um,
card's awful now. You have defending the whatever that gives your guys bonuses and then more bonuses, and hold the
I mean,
walls is awful.
we've seen the exact opposite of that card except it also like it's like if non-commanders with no followers get -2 force or something.
Yeah, just no one's ever playing this. It's a terrible card, and hilariously, if anybody has the balls to play Bountiful Fields, that also negates this. Just all bad. Nobody's playing Hold the Walls,
Yeah, I already
and
clicked
Holding
onto Holding
Walls.
Cells. Holding Cells, I think, was a criminally underplayed card
Yeah, we
last
talked
season.
about it a lot. Like this is a card we've played in so many decks for so long. From like the start of the arc to the end of it, we always had some that like we'd have 1, 2 Holding Cells in decks. We thought it was this great battle action. We thought it would be a definitive card or a defining card, and I don't know if I ever saw it really played outside of sort of the Paul Jesse cesspool of whatever.
It was played in the number 2 Scorpion or Spider deck at Worlds
So there you go.
as
It's
a
great.
singleton.
I mean, it's a card that bows something, and they can't really do anything
Right, there's
about
nothing
it.
you can do about it. It's like that guy's bowed, like bang.
Yep.
Like that's
Yep.
awesome.
Once it resolves, like at the end of it, when we're counting force, that guy's not going to be able to be part of the team.
Right,
So
it doesn't care
sorry.
about attachments. You can't straighten the guy. There's no way around it. Like, yeah, it costs 4 gold. It's an expensive thing, but you play this as an offensive card. You attack him, and you just do whatever it takes to win the
Yep.
battle. And if you're
Uh,
if you play a holding cells and you lose the battle, something went wrong somewhere.
yep.
Like
And it's
y'all
great.
done
It's
goofed.
the best card against like big tower unit stuff where they manage to have,
Oh yeah.
a Shigeki with High Chi and a Stones of Purity or two, or they've loaded up a bunch of like items, 3 demolishers or something. Like this is just like, yeah, at the end of this, that guy's not going to contribute his force.
Yeah, against those Stones of Purity tower decks, this is just uber blowouts.
So. And I mean, the honor loss is trivial, so I don't know why I didn't see more play. Probably just a
4 gold.
general aversion to gold cost actions.
But I encourage everybody to give this card a try. I really like it.
Yep. Interference, shutting down boxes.
We
So
love
one
shutting down senseis, but that's on a 0 gold cost reusable spell that draws you a card when you play it. This card is unplayable.
Right. So one of the things I want to talk about that really bugs me about this is that limited actions are so much less common now, right? Even the Crane Stronghold bowing for 2 honor, it's an open. The Scorpion box is an open. Like I guess the Phoenix box is a dynasty, so it can shut down the Phoenix box for a turn. But it's just like, what do you shut down? Where I guess shut down Unicorn for a turn. No, this is all bad. You're not playing. It's not worth it. Shutting down any of the abilities from a stronghold generally isn't going to be worth the fake.
Number of them are tireless too, so it doesn't even matter. Every Magistrate Outpost, this card was played a lot before. It would be played a lot more now. It's straightforwardly good card. I don't know what else to say about it.
There's a lot more magistrates out there, so that's why you'll see it a lot more. And battle straight in your personality is good. Though we're starting to run into a glut where you have a lot more straight in personality effects than straight in personality or other thing effects. But most cards are sort of bowing personality, so it's just a weird place. Here it is. Shall we sing it, Jesse?
Like a This card is so gas. Play it. If you're playing Ninja, you're playing Knife in the Dark. I couldn't believe this wasn't in just Ivory Base in the first place. I feel like they forgot about it completely, and then people talked about it, and they said, "Holy smokes, we forgot about Knife in the Dark." Went back and tossed it in 20 festivals.
It's been in every one too. I mean, it was in Emperor, it was in Celestial, it was in Samurai, it was in Lotus. This is just a card that's been around, and the idea that it was in Diamond, like it wasn't in Diamond Base because it came out in Diamond, but it's just like. It's odd to me that this is just one of those cards. It's always there, and it's one of the good cards to have Ninja for, and it's awesome. It does what it does, and it does it well. And I'm happy to have you back, little buddy.
Yeah, welcome back. I look forward to torturing my opponents by singing "Like a Knife in the Dark."
Yes. Okay, here we go. Lakeside Retreat. I played this card, and I believe I was it. I believe the totality of people that played Lakeside Retreat in single or triplicate is this. Like me, I'm the list. Nobody else apparently.
I quite liked it as an alternative to ritual preparation. I mean, it's like the opposite of the holding cells in that.
Holding cells, yeah. Like which is one of the reasons I played it. Yeah, it's like
that guy. That guy's gonna be there when we count force. He's there. He matters. The flip side is that it's a terrain, so it's sort of a little risky. If it's your only straight effect and you're really like putting all your eggs in the Lakeside Retreat basket, Like it's a grip and grin place to be. Now you're a great grip and grin player, but not everybody's got the same testicular fortitude, perhaps, that you do.
Yes, sir. And so I feel like this card won't see any play, and I kind of wish it would see more play. And I feel like it's a straighten effect, and one of the things I love about it is that the battle can continue onward. Like I play Lakeside Retreat, like they'd have bowed one card, I'd play Lakeside, and then maybe they'd bow some other cards, and I could eventually decide this is the one I want to straighten, not that one over there, but this one. You know,
For
and
sure.
it's
It's a
surprised them
flexible.
nice.
No, it's a very flexible card. It's an excellent card. You can get it with scouting amidst the snow. It does a lot. Problem is just that it's a terrain that if you really need that guy up and they blow it up, then you just lose on the spot, and that's not where people want to be in life.
Okay, moving on to what is maybe the weirdest strategy outside of the
Legendary
Dynasty
victory.
Size
So
action.
I read this card and I
Okay,
saw it for Phoenix Spelly Honor deck.
let me talk about a couple of things before we get too far into it. So we have Death of the Winds and Directing the Battle that can only pick up non-unique battle strategies, and we have some number of cards that are pick up like non-unique political cards. Here's the thing: we don't actually have unique actions anymore. I feel like it is sort of a
Uh,
unique card, but I can play 3 copies, but only ever play one of them at a time, and that
right.
that is to me noteworthy and potentially worrying. You know, if there turns out to be a deck that is effectively able to use Legendary Victory, which definitely remains to be seen.
It's an extremely strange card. I thought about the Phoenix deck just because it's a deck that tried to tie a lot, where you just be down on force all the time, then you tie and gain 10 honor in resolution off of everything dying, and then you can play Legendary Victory. Legendary Victory doesn't care if you win or not; it just says you increase your honor gains. So
Right.
if you die on a tie, you still get 4 honor per card. Like if it pops, it's a lot, and all you got to do is kill a couple guys and you win the game.
I could see it in something like there are you mentioned the Phoenix Honor deck. There's obviously dragon decks that sort of they start out under the dragon dragon honor Tomoko Sensei, not Yoda Sensei, where it's like, they attack me and I'm close in force, but I'm a little behind. I can play my legendary victory, and I start playing all my other battle actions, and I play my big terrain at the end, and I end up winning. And now I've gained a million force times two.
Mm-hmm.
To me, it feels like that's going to be an overkill situation because most of those decks are just built on winning that one battle anyway. And
Right.
every card in their deck, every card they rip off the top of their deck needs to contribute to winning that battle. They can't be messing around with trying to gain more honor. They need just like the effects and the send homes and the bows and all those things
Absolutely.
before you get into it. I do feel like there might be a place for this in something like a lion deck, or maybe just a generic tactician deck, where like you generally start out a little bit behind and then you play out your various bonuses and win that way. I don't know.
Maybe. I
The
think
question,
that you've made the best point about the card, which is simply that you sort of tangentially touched on the point, which is that if you win the battle, you win the game anyway. Like, if you're
right?
playing an
Most
honor
of the
deck
time.
that it has an all-in defense, and say it's only turn 4, and they come at you with 3 guys, and you defend with your 2 guys, and you play Legendary Victory, and then win the battle. Like you won the game anyway. You killed their 3 guys to your 2 guys. You gained 8 honor. Like that game is over no matter what. Like they can't.
Exactly, and so in those situations, it's a win more. Like, and if they attack me with 10 units and I win and I gain 20 honor, I win the game anyway. So like, there's a very finite point where legendary victory will work, and it's like when you're playing like some kind of a military deck, and you're gonna kill 2 cards, but you played a legendary victory, so maybe instead of gaining 4 honor, you'll gain 8, and maybe that will allow you to sort of like sneak out an honor victory as a
Right.
switch deck, but it's such a small window. The
And in
threshold is
those
so bare
in those
that
cases,
I
I
don't
prefer
really think it
cards like
works.
in those cases I prefer cards like Military Alliance and that personal
The
trainer that
follower,
the follower
yeah, the
gives you
trigger.
too. Like that's the card that steps on Legendary Victory's toes. So I'm not playing that. Lookout Post. Here's our anti sneak attack.
Three
Neat.
copies for me and a ton of decks starting out. I feel like there's a lot of naval. There's enough in-game cavalry. There's not so much sneak yet, but maybe sneak comes back. And the fact that I can karmic it, the fact that it also just has a move my guy home and straighten him as he goes, and so then I can use one of my other move back in effects. I love this card.
Yeah,
I think
here's a total change. It's a rare. Is it going to be a total find it because you got to play 3 and 6 of your decks?
Yep.
It's awesome. It's just totally awesome. It's self-evidently awesome. There's not a lot we need to say about it.
Yeah, I mean, I think some people might not appreciate the number of engage actions that are out there. There's a lot. Some people might not appreciate
Cavalry and naval. That's all you need to know.
Yep. So, Lost in Transit. This is another sort of Paul Ashman favorite card of yore that I played in a bunch of decks and was always really happy with, and like nobody else was with me. And I think this one I can actually say, unlike Lakeside Retreat, I was right on this one.
Absolutely.
Lost in Transit was great.
It's awesome. It's pseudo package.
All the time. I won games playing it as an open to stave off blitzes. I bowed elephant cavalries. I bowed ranged attack followers. I used the discipline. This card is great, and people are still playing attachments. Going to be playing attachments even more with 20 festivals, and you guys need to get on the bus with the Lost in Transit, or maybe not because you don't want to get lost. You see what I did there?
Haha. Right. So the question is if this card stacks favorably with your true nature, which is the battle open that destroys the attachment.
Blow stuff up.
And the reason why it's even a question is because Lost in Transit is discipline. So a lot of times you see something that's like, okay, destroy it. And so you think automatically, okay, well, destroy it. That's much better. But you have to think about what point in time the destruction matters. Like if you blow something up, like how many attacks are they going to have with that item? And so if the answer is 1, then buying it and taking it out for the 1 attack where it matters, you just do the exact same thing, plus you have discipline. So there's a way to think about these types of card effects where Lost in Transit stock goes up a lot. And I think that's worth considering.
Yeah, and one of the things I love with this card is, I mean, I love bowing like my opponent's touches of death and his walking the way and his heart of Fudos. And, you know what I mean? Yeah, I mean, it just buys you a turn. Like, this is something this is a card that you could just play. Like, so we talked about how top decks, like, there's all these top decks that when you rip them off the top at the end of your turn and you're just like, I can't, this card doesn't, there's nothing, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I never had that problem with Lost in Transit, and I never had that problem when it was in my yard, and I had some free gold and I could discipline it because there was always attachments out there to be bowed. And so this was a card that I was just playing and then playing again, and that's, I mean, I want some of those cards in my deck.
For sure. I mean, Bill Murray is a talented actor.
That's right.
Mastery of Chikujo. We talked a little bit about this one when we were doing holdings. It moves your stuff around.
I hate fortifications.
I hate fortifications. Like, target your fortification. All right, stop reading. Like, next card.
It's the worst. It's like it's got all the issues you have of a kata, where it's like you have to draw it, and then the later ones are worthless, and you have to karmic it away, and then this just moves fortifications around, and you can like move your fortification over here, and then you can straight whatever. I'm done. Hey, Mercantile Conflict. That's a card that goes in every dishonor deck, and because I can't
believe this card is back.
This is one of those, like, when we were playing Ivory Strict, we're like, yeah, no Mercantile Conflict. I wonder how Dishonor will do without it. There's no way that's coming back. And then, as if to spit in my face and, make fun of my lack of predicting powers, here it comes. So a card like Favors doesn't see a ton of play because it's just bow a courtier, make them lose 2. But this is bow a courtier, make them lose 4, and it turns out that's really great.
Well,
so there you go. One big card.
Yeah. We got about 2 courtiers.
But then you replay it. Right. But like you just do it sequentially, and so it's 4 honor hit from one single fate card, and that's as good as you're gonna get, and it's awesome, and it's in every honored boss deck. And
absolutely.
Okay, man.
Dishonor was already really good coming out of Strict, and now it's just totally not so bonkers. Mutual support. I have no time for this card. Opposed force bonuses. This one cares about clan alignments.
Yep. And we're done. And only 2 force, too. I feel like this is one of those situations where if you make that +3, then it's a +6 force card, and that's big enough to make me sort of think about juking and jiving to trigger it. But the fact that it's just +4 force, it's like I don't care. And
it's 2 or more. It's just, no, okay, never mind.
Even if you're playing a deck that's playing multi-faction stuff, which would be like a School of Wizardry type deck, you don't care.
Right.
It's not enough force. It has
This
to be
is
opposed.
yeah. If this is
Need it at the wall. This is Jesse's fortification payoff card. If you loved block supply lines
boy,
and
do I
you
have a
loved
card for you.
fortifications, I mean, we're just it's arranged marriage time. We're jamming you together. You're gonna live a long and happy life together if you love
Not
those two.
even not even an unstoppable. Like, what does this have on your block supply lines? The answer is absolutely nothing.
And
I have no reason to play this
it's
card.
actually a little trickier to trigger now because a bunch of fortifications interplay Bowed because that's what the rulebook says they do. So
Yeah, no kidding.
yeah, have fun with
So
that.
that
Outmaneuvered by force in what looks to be is he really being outmaneuvered by force? It doesn't
yeah,
look like
he
like
appears to
is
just be
that
getting
out?
stabbed in the neck. This card should be called
Is that
stabbed in the neck.
it's outmaneuvered stabbing someone in the like. I feel like it should be a little bit trickier. There should be like a big burly guy. But anyway,
Yeah, we can look at the diamond edition art
this was the
too.
one like this and
Well, the
outmaneuvered in
boats on
court.
fire.
Were
You're right.
both played right.
No, this isn't the boats one. Which one had the boats? Was that perfect cut? Had the boats on fire? No,
I think
I'm just
that was
remembering
outmaneuvered
correctly.
in court.
Yeah, maybe. Anyway, keep going.
So I mean, they were played in concert. Outmaneuvered in court was better because it prevented guys from assigning, but this one also seen a lot of play as a way to stop. I don't know, Rise from the Ashes was a political card that comes to mind.
Yeah, I
I
mean,
think,
it got played. It got a little bit of play back in the day in Cancel Favor. And that was about
yeah,
it. I
and there's a lot of political actions now. This is one of the better dishonor meta
Meta
cards that you
cards,
can.
yeah.
I mean, it's a meta card. Nobody's starting out with this in their deck. Some number of decks might end with this card in their deck.
I think that's a bit of a
And
reach.
yeah,
I never liked straight meta, but if that's what you want, let's talk about Pacify. This is a card that just rains on my parade. I had like Snoopy.
one of
Snoopy was all
the.
inflated. I was ready to go, and someone came and just
Yep.
stabbed it.
I think it's just one of those really good actions because it's one fate card that can bow 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 other fate cards,
Yep.
and that's great. It's just great, Or it can, yeah. I mean, or it can just bow a
There's
guy.
just no questions asked. It does care about chi, so there are ways to protect yourself. But
Yep.
this is a super excellent card, and it's a way to it's a reason to stay a little bit back off of those big tower, like attach 1,000 things to this guy and attack decks.
It's a real reason too. I mean, this is a card that should be like you're playing Samurai. You're probably playing some number of this card, depending on where your chi breakdowns are. But I mean, if you've got 4 chi Samurai in your deck, you're playing probably triplicate Pacify because it's just
just for bow you, and it doesn't care about you having attachments. You can bow the attachments. You also bow the guy, and then he's all set up for your assassin strike.
And it's one of the cards that you can play if you're playing the Kensai Samurai decks, and it's a good card, man, and it can bow a bunch of followers and spells and really rain on people's parades.
At common too.
Hey, Poison Sake, I don't. So, I think I'm gonna play this card because giving out 2 -1/-1s, like that's gonna kill some people. There's not a ton of 1 chi guys, but there's definitely some 2 chi guys. And I think that I can play it in Spider with Teirao because I can just rent out a Teneji or a Demia or have one of my other cheap ninjas. The fact that you can buy courtiers to this, I think this is a card that's going to end up seeing a lot more play than you think. Like, it's not a ninja dueling card. I don't even think it's like a ninja deck. I think this is like a dishonor card and an honor card.
I think it's a straight control card. And the ninja I will be targeting for it over and over again is the one that creates an ambush.
Sure.
So Goju Kumoru. So I'll just be, Goju Kumoru plays a poison sake, Teirao, you ambush your guy, immediately dies. Like that's
No, that doesn't work because his controller is not assigning him.
Sure he is.
His controller assigns him. Aren't you assigning him?
I have no idea. How do I assign him?
I mean, I'm just tossing it out there. As
All right, I mean, even if it's the case, then he's in the battle and he can't do anything without immediately dying. I'm still perfectly happy with that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I mean, we know our buddy Tayrao doesn't actually care about who assigned him. It's just after the guy assigned. So like,
Yeah.
that still works. We still get to do our Tayraos with Ninja Shapeshifter copy, Ninja Ambush, kill all the guys. Like we
Oh
still
yeah.
get to do that.
That's
We're still
exciting.
happy.
I'll build that deck.
That's happening, man. Like that is
And Poison
so
Sake
Poison
will be
Sake
a
is
little bit part of
good.
the gameplay.
Yeah, and I think it stops guys. So most of the time, what'll happen is that like the poison tokens won't get put out there. You'll target a Tucci guy, and then it'll just stop that Tucci guy cold for the turn,
Mm.
and that's a fine effect for Honor and
You
Dishonor.
can also get them with Priestly Feud, right?
Absolutely, you can get them if you want to take your You want to take your dually thing and jam it in with your 2 focus value control thing. You can do that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I wouldn't. I wouldn't recommend it. Paul for motivation. I don't know. Hey, look, a random character. This card's awesome because you know how Pacify was good because it could bow 2 things off 1 card. Well, this can straighten 2 things off 1 card, and so also really good. And the
Absolutely.
open, which it's just weird that so this is one of those situations like we know they're reducing limiteds because as a rule opens are just better. They make for more fluid and back and forth games and sequencing and all that stuff. But this just doesn't make sense as an open. Like, put your target discarded like that. Like, you don't want to do that as an open. That doesn't make any sense,
Yeah.
right? Like, I guess if you have a reserve commander and a bunch of unbound gold, but this is one of the few cards that I feel like it's like the Ring of Void. Like, they kept that limited. They kept some of the senseis limited. They said these things don't make sense as opens. I feel like this is one of the few places where it would have been okay, guys, to just like it's okay. You can have a limit.
You can have some limits.
No,
I feel like
it's okay.
in this push to get rid of limited, they're kind of missing that slow effects matter too. Like
Right.
like just putting everything on open, you say, oh well, the gameplay is better. You can go back and forth, but
Well, I mean,
it's
as
slightly different.
all things being equal, opens are preferable because it gives this sense of like I do a thing, you do a thing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But you still end up in a situation because of the way gold works and because of the way turns are constructed and the way buying the cost work. You still
Right.
end up in these situations where one player, even though all his stuff is opens, he's doing it all during his limited phase, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And the bottom line is just that like L5R is not magic cards. Like
Yep.
trying to make this feel it doesn't matter. But yeah, this is a great card. It's a courage effect, so the one line guy can pick it back up. I think that he will be in my decks here and there. And
Yep.
there you go. Let's talk about preserving forces. I think this card is totally awesome. It
Yeah, I mean,
synergizes with.
Spirited Dispute is in decks, and if you
Yeah,
were playing Spirited Dispute because you were playing followers,
like
hey,
this is
look,
strictly better. It's free.
I don't pay gold.
Yeah, it synergizes really well with New Year. You can discard 2 followers and pick them back up to preserving forces and turn it into just cycle like discard 1, draw
Yep.
2. So this is an excellent card. The focus effect maybe will even come up. I don't care so much about that. I just care about
Yeah,
the fact that it's just straight gas.
having said that, you don't need you need some number of other cards that will. So I don't think you're going to play 3. I think like, this is like a Spirited Dispute card. We're playing 1 or 2 copies, and you're happy to draw it and play it when you play it. But it's not something that you're not playing 3 of this and 3 Spirited Disputes. At least you're not until we get the followers that blow themselves up to do really awesome things.
Right, yeah, and that's the thing is that we have Lookout so far.
Yep.
And I think there might be a few other followers that blow themselves up. We could look really quick, but I don't really
There's
care.
no I'm looking for like Shinobi Assault. It's like I'm looking for something like that. Like I'll blow up, do something awesome.
Right.
But you're right. I can build my Lookout deck and just do it. Look out a lot.
Look out!
Okay, Public Arrest. So this is a great card for us to talk about because it highlights a number of things that we've talked about. This is the card that sort of it points out to me just the insanity of some weird designy stuff. So we've talked before about how a fear effect that's like arbitrarily large is still just a fear effect, right?
Yep.
So like even if this was like make a fear equal to your magistrate's chi plus ph, like full stop. If that was the card, so this would make some very big fear effects. It'd make fear 5s and fear 7s and fear millions, and it would be like okay, but not great. So then you're like, well, what if it could also go through followers? Well, that's good, except now it has to target a dishonorable guy. So, like, this card just says bow a dishonorable guy or bow a Shadowlands guy, and okay, sure, it can bow them if they have followers. Like, well, then why make it a fear effect so that it can be messed with all the stuff that messes with fear effect?
I
Like,
love. Yeah, absolutely.
this is just bad, and it's a red herring card. Like, you're building your magistrate deck, your Yodo deck, or your Hakuseki deck, or just a deck filled with magistrates, and you're dishonoring guys because that's the thing you can do when you play magistrates. And like, this feels like it might be a payoff card, but at the end of the day, it's not a payoff card at all. It's just
No.
bow a dishonored guy or a Shadowlands guy, and that's not that good. And you had to do all this work for it,
Yeah.
and you had to like have incidental cheese and PHs, and it's just nonsense. This card is nonsense.
You've said it great. I've got nothing to add except that the best thing about this card, in my mind, is the rub-ins of the backup battle action of like, well,
Like,
even if
oh
it's
yeah,
not all that, you
also,
can still do a Fear 2. Is Fear 2 even worth a fake card? Is Fear 2 worth anything? Like, what does?
yeah,
I can't even.
it's
I will say
just
that Okura's release may end up being a problematic card for them to have included in the base set because these
yep.
sorts of goes through followers fear effects have to be extremely careful with. Um, and it might actually
Yeah,
make fear effects worse across the board. I think without Okura's release, we might see something that's like fear everybody with force like 1 or 0 or something like this. But instead, we're stuck with effects like this because they're living in fear of the wombo combo of blow up your guy that has a million followers. Feel bads, man.
yep. That exactly could be it. I guess this is one of the like 3 cards that care about Shadowlands people, so whatever. But it's not worth it. It's a crappy payoff. Like, so.
There's no payoff. It's pure intent.
Okay. You know, this card gets me. This card gets me going. It gets me upset because it puts me in a bad state of mind. I dare say it creates in me a murderous intent.
Ooh. Yeah,
See,
so
Murderous Intent was an awesome card. Murderous Intent was like, I gain a bunch of force, sure, I lose some honor or other cool things, but it's just like you had to have some keywords, and that was maybe a little bit of effort, and you had to lose 3 honor, and okay, whatever. But or was it 4 honor? I don't know because I never actually. But like, Murderous Intent was awesome. So like, let's make an honorable version. But
except
then
not
they
even.
added a post to it, and that sort of ruined it. So this card's going to see a ton of play, but it's not going to see any play based on the crappy force bonus it gives. It's going to see a bunch of play because it says gain 2 honor, and so
For
like
sure.
you play this and Inexplicable Challenge and Usurpation, and now you've got a bunch of these cards that say gain 2 honor in your Fate hand, and just trying to throw them on the table and blitz upward. And that's a reason to play this card, and fine, gain 2 honor is tech and it's relevant. I just wish it was attached to something else that I cared about at all, even a little bit.
Murderous Intent is a cool card to bring up. I thought that card was excellent because it was such a cool, different card. Like, I've never seen a card before or since that just says, like, count the keywords. Like, we don't care what they are,
Right.
just count them. And so, in making an honorable version of that, the fact that they dropped that neatness, like, I've seen this card, gain force equal to your pH a gajillion times. And
Absolutely.
it's just not exciting. It's not interesting. It's got 2 honor stapled onto it. Whatever. If that really is what they were supposed to be doing here, that's really disappointing. And
I don't think that's what they were doing with the card at all. I'm saying that's why people will play this card. It's the only reason
I'm
people will
saying
play.
if this was supposed to be some sort of honorable homage to Murderous Intent, then I'm really disappointed.
Huge fail. Yep.
All right, next
I
card.
mean, you can't have Strength of Purity. I mean, come on.
We have
Okay.
Purity of Spirit.
One of the other cards that references Shadowlands. This was like you target a guy and you can bow them, and then you have.
And then blah blah blah.
So if I bow my guy to bow your guy, that's terrible. If I target my guy to bow your guy, I'm just playing a version of Palm Strike, and that's okay. But yeah, whatever.
All these guys, like Palm Strike is indie, guys. No one plays it.
We're in the middle of it here. Okay, Red Gas Brothers. This is a card I can talk about. This is a good card. This is a card I'll play a bunch of copies of. because Open Bow is good. Open Bow is great for any number of decks, and there's a ton of Magistrates out there, and you can use it as a setup card for your attack. You can use it as a defensive card for your defensive decks.
Yeah.
It's a 4 focus card, so it goes into those dually shells if you want it to.
Effectively unconditional Open Bow is really important in a format that has not only a Moru who kills guys when they're bowed. It's got Touch of Death. It's got control, and it's got the item. So this is the sort of, and then in addition to all that, it's just a good effect. Crane has like the 4 gold 3 PH Magistrate from the last set that we really liked. Is just here's a body, and now we can rank as privilege to save your provinces. This is just an excellent card. Honor next to play it, Dishonor next to play it.
All sorts of, Crane Honor has been doing buy Doggonin, lobby for the favor, play Imperial Summons. That's been going on for a while now. Now they can just go buy Doji Atsuki or buy whoever that 4 gold cost Magistrate is with 3 PH, Shimeta or something. And they can just buy that guy and bow him to rank Cath privilege, and it's the same thing, and it's just as good.
Agreed.
So, hey, rewards of experience. What is your reward? Do you feel like you're adequately rewarded for gaining experience?
I get a little ding on my screen, and I get a new version of my abilities.
Yeah. So it's a bow effect. This is better than, say, Purity of Spirit, so it's got that going on for it.
It's another, so this is supposed to be a samurai payoff.
Okay, so it bows a unit, which is great. It's got to be a unit with less force than the thing that you're targeting. So this is one of those big unit card type things. Bowing a whole unit can be great. Bowing two cards for 1 fate card is good. That's just science, man.
Well, but so it cares about your samurai's force, not the samurai's unit's force. So you're bowing a unit which is smaller than your
personality. So it's a Kensei thing, right? You have you've got a Kensei weapon and a weapon, and he's big.
On it, you can use the box to get your 4/4 guy to 7, and then bow a thing. It's just that
I can do it in my sort of go wide Shugenja deck. I can have a couple of the cheap Yojimbos play Inspired Devotion. They're going to target my Shugenja with spells first, and then I'll play Rewards of Experience and get ya.
It's a powerful effect, and negating straightening is not nothing. It's just that it's a card that requires some setup, and I think that we don't live in a world where crab guys are 5/6 force anymore, and you just play a card like this and blow everybody out and laugh.
That's the real problem, and we also don't have we don't have great ways to make your guy really big, even if you want to. The best you can do is something like a Tai Chi, where it's I gain +3 force, and we don't. There is no give your guy +5 force for 6 gold, but now you have to attack every turn kind of items. We just don't have those tools available to us. But Rewards is a good card, so
absolutely. It's just that being big ain't what it used to.
How hard is it going to be to get going? Sake House Ball, this is more of that. Bowing things is good. Bowing things is open is great. Mess with their attack, set up your attack, play defense with it, play offense with it.
Yeah,
flexible card.
It's an interesting design. You can get a lot of their stuff.
Say you could do something like bow your 2 Bat Clan Shugenjas and then straighten both of them.
Absolutely. The fact that you can bow multiple of their guys from bowing multiple of your guys, it's just really interesting design. In theory, this is you could in theory just sleep, which is weird because no one plays sleep, and it was this really weird reach around your head kind of card. And here's Sake House Brawl. It's just I'll sleep you with my samurai.
Well, you can't sleep a single player. It's about 1 or more target person, each controlled by a different player. Oh, okay. So that's you can bow a bunch.
My bad.
Generally, it can only bow one of your opponent's cards. But yeah, in a group
setting, still just fine. Yeah, still just fine card.
So.
I say that.
Straight power meta card in Scour the Unworthy. So Shika Sensei, I don't know if it's a hot take. It's been discussed. It's talked about in the places where people talk about sort of the bannings and the erratas. There's discussions about Sheikah Sensei, and that's just because AEG polices its game through heavy aggressive use of erratas and bannings, and that card is really good, and it's created a very powerful deck, and Mantis are going to win a ton of Kotais. I don't know if it's just Sheikah Sensei. I think that's part of a larger problem.
Yeah,
The
Sheikah
box
Sensei
is so
certainly
good.
helps. The box
The
is good, the
number of
guys are
deep
good, the naval
personalities
trade
they
is
have in
good.
naval. So
And
like,
then Strict is
Man,
bad. Don't forget that part.
right. And Strict is bad. So like Mantis are gonna win tons of stuff. The hope is, and the reason people aren't complaining the way they would have been if Crane were like winning everything at this, is that there's a new set that's going to be rotating in and shaking it all up. And Scar the Unwitting is one of the cards that we're hoping shakes things up and keeps those sort of blitzy, swarmy decks kind of down. I don't think it gets to do that. I don't think it's good enough. Sure, it's one card that bows to, but I'm not sure that's enough, because if you have 2 cards and they have 6, bowing only 2 doesn't get you anywhere.
Yeah, I'm also not sure that it gets to as frequently as you wanted to.
Right, but it's a good card, and I'm happy it's out there, and I'm gonna play it a bunch for a while, and hope that that's enough to help get me in the game against these spread it on out decks.
For sure. I like this card quite a bit. I've always liked effects like this. It harkens back to like a Claw and Shell. Like there was all those cards that cared about
Yep.
0 force, 0 gold stuff, and this kind of rhymes with that.
Yep.
The Fear 3 is useless, you'll never play it. But just battle Bawa guy. And again, like this doesn't care about attachments, it just says Bawa guy with Bawa cheap guy.
Yep.
Like Bawa 2 cheap
So
guys.
I mean, we're putting a lot of hope in this card, and I don't know if it probably won't be a New Hope. It probably won't be it won't deliver for us the way we want it to. But I'm happy it's out there. So
here's another copy of the card we saw in the beginning, where you blow up our guy and they attack us and we gain 3. This time we gain 2, but we don't have to blow anybody up.
Yeah.
I don't know if this makes the cut or not. We have a lot of ways to gain 2 now.
Yeah, I mean, you can put it in the deck with all your other cards, and just like every fate card says gain 2, and it's like you buy your guys, proclaim a little bit, activate your box, throw your fate hand out, and hope that's enough. And sometimes it will be, and sometimes it won't be. I like this one a lot less than I like the other one, but okay. I mean, I don't know what it's hard for me to get excited about this card because it's only, yeah. So. Show me your stance is a duel that can't target my dragons. Haha, take that.
Take that. A duel of personal honor that gets you 2 honor and moves home. It's just, I feel the same way about this, like this card and the last card. This card's been around for as long as I've been playing L5R, more or less.
Yep.
I don't think I ever have played a single copy. Like in 10 years, more than 10 years of playing L5R, this card has been legal. Never played a single copy. There's my commentary on it.
So I think I'm sure I've played it once or twice. A long time ago, dueling was much different. And so the fact that this is a dual card with a 1 focus value wasn't a deal at all. It was like, whatever. And you deal with Chi, who cares about the focus? This is a card that's not going to be in dueling decks. Though I guess maybe stupid Hakuseki Honor Craft is terrible. No. I think this is... like Selfless Politics, this is a card most likely to show up in just these try to blitz out honor kind of decks where like you just play it because you have 3 pH and they have 1 or 2 pH, and you're just hoping that your random focuses beat their random focuses and you'll gain 2 honor from it. That's the only reason to play it. That's a fair reason to play it, but ugh.
If I recall, back in the day, if they were dishonored, they automatically lost this duel. Is that still the case? Like, they increase off their focus values.
Right. Focus is used to add to the stat. That's not. Now they're like modifiers or something. So no, I do not believe that is still the case.
Got it. All right, Smoke. Now, Smoke, I remember Smoke. I played a lot of Smoke. This is just like an auto-include in dueling decks because all it does is troll your opponent and draw you cards.
Yeah, and... there's something about Smoke, man. I've played some different cards with Smoke in the title, but yeah, I mean, it cycles out a card and forces them, and yeah, okay. I mean, 0 focus is weird,
but it never
but you
has.
can
Yeah,
still focus it face up,
even
right?
off
Like
the
you can
top.
still
If you focus
off
blind
the
off the
top
top, you can still
focus.
flip it up and do the
So
thing. It's yeah,
yep,
it's an excellent card because there's any number of effects that force your opponent to focus. So it's not reasonable to say something like, "This card doesn't matter because your opponent's just will never focus against you." And there's even entire
yep,
schools of thought that say you should be focusing all the time against your opponents. The other thing is that now with the rules change, so this card was great back in the day when you could only focus from your hand. Now it's even better because you can target their good numbers. You know which cards they
yep.
play that are good because they're you know when they're playing from hand and ripping off the top. When they play off the hand, you smoke it, you get their four. Then they rip off the top, you just leave it and hope that they pop it too. So this card's great.
Also, if you focus it off the top, it just straight draws you a card, and so you went from a card that was just sort
Yeah,
of sitting there in your deck to add any card to your
yeah. This
hand.
card is
Smoke is
this
awesome.
card's a total free roll in dueling decks. Everyone will play it.
Yep. It's going to see a lot of play. There'll be smokes going back and forth and mirrors shattering. And it's a whole deal.
I smoke, you smoke, and blah blah blah. Spinning the web. This is a cool card for a lot of different reasons. It's ostensibly a ninja card, but it has more broad applications than that. I think the most important clause in it is the second sentence. To straighten your sensei, you can use it again. So any sensei with battle actions can
Yeah.
benefit from spinning.
Yep. And it's sort of just like hidden on there, right? There was your past or something that's like straight in a sensei, but then you had to invest to use it again, and this just like lets you do it. Plus, it's putting out a -1/-1 poison token, plus a bunch of other random text that's happening down the way. I like this card just fine. I don't like. I played Strike from the Earth in concert with Wounded in Battle, and I'll be happy to just add Spinning the Web into the mix. I don't want to do the dueling stuff with it,
Yeah,
but
well, it's ninja stuff. So knife in the dahak gives a
right.
-1/-1. It's just these kinds of effects, and we don't see them often, but every once in a while we do. And I'm
The
never.
Scorpion guy who puts out, poison tokens and stuff, like when this card gets to put out 2 poison tokens, it's an awesome card. Putting out 1 is a good enough card for me. I like Spinning the Web. I don't care about losing the 2 honor. I don't know how much I'll ever care about straightening the sensei, but okay.
Yeah, I'm just saying that. So if this card gives -1/-1, straightens your sensei, and I don't know how many sensei have battle actions, but I'm thinking about like Akikazu sensei, and I'm
Yep.
blanking. It's late. It's tough when I'm doing these, but
Sure.
that's a powerful line of text that you can keep your eye on as we move forward. And then
Absolutely.
everything after that is just gravy. I don't know how many dirtle battle do nothing actions ninjas have that let me trigger that give them more -1/-1s and eventually kill them.
More than you'd think, actually, and that's the point I wanted to talk about. There's the ninja that makes the range to attack and bows and straightens if you discard a card. There's the ninja that's like discard a card from your province, and if you discarded a guy, you gain a
Well,
force
it's
bonus.
gotta it's gotta target the guy that got spun. It's not just after you do a ninja action. It's a ninja action that resolves that targeted him.
Oh, okay, fair enough. So,
So yeah, I
a
mean
little
that actually makes
tricky.
the
For
card a
some,
lot less good. If the card was just after a ninja action, then you can go like spinning, spinning,
it'd
spinning,
be
and
too
then
good.
spin
Yeah.
your wheels and kill 3 guys. That'd be an
So
awesome card.
it's like spinning plus knife in the darkness is sort of where
Pretty
you're
much
setting
what you
up.
got. Yeah.
Chiho's a ninja action,
Yes, he
just
is.
kind of a novel.
Standing fast. Well, hey, it's a Khan's Defiance card. I bet it's good, and it is.
Yep. So it blows up my odd witness duel buddy. It's like, man, that's just the Robbins plan. Why you gotta do that? Why you gotta hurt my little buddy like that?
Boucher, you can
Um,
definitely tell this is a card from a different time because it bows 2 cards with a single card. It
yep.
cares about being expensive, but it's another.
Yeah. So this one compares your personality to their unit cost. So it's hard to get it to bow lots and lots and lots of stuff. But man, it just blows up 0 gold cost personalities like it ain't a thing. Take that, Berenger Scouts. Take that, Lion Ancestors. Blowing up Lion Ancestors is something that's really going to happen with Standing Fast. And every time you do it, you're going to have the world's biggest smile because there's just nothing funner than
Like, get out of
blowing
here,
up free.
chumps.
Like it is. I've been doing it for a while. Okay, I've been blowing up free personalities, and it's always fun. Also fun blowing up stupid undercosted 0 gold cost copy spells.
Also fun. Yeah, this can.
Also
Yeah, it does blow up all the junk in the units
No,
themselves.
oh yeah, no, it blows up, created token followers. You think of it as blowing up all the tokens, which it can do, but
Yeah.
it also blows up just like Bandit Gang. Like this
Oh
card
yeah, it'll
is
blow up. There's tons of
good at.
spells that blows up. This thing just clears Shugenja out. There's tons
Yep,
of
no
serviceable
servitors
customers
of
for this thing
stone for
around.
you.
For
Yep,
sure. Yeah,
so.
this is an excellent. I think this will see plenty of play. This is another payoff card for playing Samurai, and it's a pretty good
And
one.
Berserkers, if only they had given us any.
Right, and Shiba Tsukimi specifically because she's expensive and you can always get two guys with her.
Yep. Startling Kaya?
Kya!
Yeah,
Kya!
yeah.
Startling Kya!
Whatever. And I'm done.
And next card.
Let's see. Steal an Advantage. This is a card I played a lot because I really like the idea of removing an ability for a turn as an engage, and it was good for me, and I played it a lot early, and it sort of got pushed out late because have you seen my pal Victory through Deference over here?
Yeah, no
But
kidding.
still good, and
Oh yeah,
still
yeah,
one
yeah.
of the payoffs for scouts, and enemy cards have abilities, and a lot of times they're counting on it, and there's a real delightful dance of I pass engage. Oh, I declare naval. I shut down that one naval action you have over there. Bah, take that. Screw you. Leave me alone. Yeah, I like Stealing Advantage. It's a fine card.
I think it's so too. I've been totally blown out before by this card. It's excellent. It's one of these. It's a very innocuous card. You read it and you sort of. I read it the first time and thought this doesn't do anything. Like who cares? But you're
Yep.
right. People, especially with really good range, with range attack 4 or like a Tamitaka level ability, the players are really counting on it. And if you strand a guy
I
at the battle, they're just done.
I had a lion deck that like I didn't have any terrains. I wasn't on contentious at the time because I was doing more battle specific stuff and I didn't want to play contentious because I was trying mid game things. And this was like my come one at a time answer, and it was my answer to a lot of other just random problems. Like things
Yeah.
would creep up. This would save my bacon. So like Stealing Advantage.
I love strategic withdrawal. I played this card an enormous amount. It remains very, very good.
As a focus effect, draw a card. When you focus them from the top, it always feels great. Run a guy home, give -4, save a province. It's Plaid Departure, but better. It's great.
It's Plan Departure, but different. It's a much more defensive card, obviously.
Yeah.
There's actually an open debate about whether or not you play this versus Plan Departure. Plan Departure is a four focus value. It can give the +2 force, and it also
Is it a
straightens your.
binary choice? Do I have to pick just
No, no,
one?
no. It also straightens your guy as he moves home. So Plan Departure might be a little better than this card, I would say, but
Okay.
I play a lot of Dirtles. I like defending. Strategic Withdrawal is the card for me.
Superior defense. So this is you got to read through it. It's got like a lot of lot of text. I mean, just look at all that text on that card over there, man. But it turns out it's worth reading all the way through and understanding how this card works because it's pretty good. You have a follower, and then you give a penalty equal to your follower's force, and then you can bow it to draw a card and take an additional action. And that last bit's really important.
Hey, I know a bunch of followers that can benefit from that.
Because we have a bunch of followers that you can bow and they'll up themselves right away, and then drawing the card, but then also getting the additional tempo to play it.
Yeah.
That's just enough to push this. Like if it's just that first line, I'm probably never bothering, but with that second line, suddenly I'm looking to see if I have any commanders I can jam into my follower decks.
Yeah, this is a great card.
So
Total payoff for playing Commanders. Commanders
Yep. And
are
follow.
splashed all over the place, and there are a couple really good payoff cards.
And you still have like Shrine to Hachimans, even if you don't want to go into the Fearless Follower department. So
yeah.
Hey, Superior Tactics is back, and nobody cares.
It's funny, isn't it? They found a way to make nobody care about one of the best battle actions ever printed. Well, once upon a time, one of the best.
Like back when we played 30-30 into 40-40 into all the way until I guess it went away in Diamond. I think was the last. I mean, it's been a while since we've seen
gold. No, yeah, like the last set it was in gold, and it was in like 3 copies every single military deck. First thing you did,
and they stopped it because it was just like all the time forever. I had like some gold bordered ones that I used to love to buy. This card was just everywhere. You had to play it. You had Deadly Ground. You had Entrapping Terrains. You used it to take probably. Two things have changed. The first is all terrains blow up all other terrains.
Mm-hmm.
Well, 3 things. Deadly Ground is gone. That's number one with a bullet.
Number
All
one,
terrains
yeah.
blow up all other terrains, and weapon strengths are insanely high. People don't appreciate that. Like, LFR used to be a game where like 7 was a big province strength. Now it's
Yeah,
the
people
littlest
were
amount.
kicking. Yeah,
It's
people were
just like,
kicking around with 5.
yeah, it's just so
I don't
nobody
think.
cares.
Yeah, it's almost sad to see how the mighty have fallen. I don't think this will even see Fringe play.
Yeah, I don't care. So there's that.
You don't.
Test of character. Onto the card I will be playing to target myself to cycle through my deck.
I don't think that you could pass a test of character.
I probably can. I think I would fail. I did once lose a promotion after failing the ethics portion of an employment test. So I mean, like, that's
You
just
couldn't
like,
even bring yourself to not circle like, yes, I would steal it. I
no, it was about like ratting out your coworkers. I'm not a narc, man. I grew up in the hood. Like, I'm not. If I see somebody saying something, that's not my business to speak of. I'm not gonna. I'm
it's
not
too funny,
being a
man.
tattletale.
I hate this card because it just trolls me that it's not
It
Test of
does. It
Honor.
reminds you of
Test of
tests that
Honor,
were
yeah.
much better. Tests of honor that you used to love. It's not bad. If greater than or equal to target's personal honor. So it dishonors low pH guys really well and struggles on high pH guys. But if they're playing a dueling deck, then it dishonors people like crazy. The fact that it cantrips, I think, is what makes it playable and why people will play it and why I will probably play it and target my Shadowlands guys with it all the time because I'm
It's
perfectly
interesting.
comfortable running a
Oh
37
yeah,
card deck.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
This is
hey,
just rubber
I
ducky.
mean, I can take my 0 pH spider guys and just turn them upside down. No fuss, no muss. Give me that card.
Keep them coming. Okay, that's a very spiky interpretation of this card. There's a lot of that. So here's another test of sincerity. I'm worried that we're coming into test, like this is turning into.
Test of all Bushidos. Is that what's going to happen?
No, I'm trying to think of what was the name of those really terrible duels that everyone always makes fun of.
Contests?
Contest. This is getting into contest territory. Like, yeah, let's
Test
test
of
everything.
sincerity is not nearly as bad because, first off, it has to target your opponent. But it puts him to a real choice, right? So dishonor and lose 2 is what I think a lot of people will look at, and then a fake card that makes you just lose 2 honor and dishonor is great, and blowing up their guy is also often acceptable. So it puts your opponent to the test. Now the problem with cards like this is that one choice is clearly the right play and one choice is clearly the wrong play, and it's up to them to be able to know and have the game experience to say, like, in this situation X, in this situation Y.
Mm-hmm.
But Test of Sincerity, I think, is a good card and a fine card, and a card that's going to probably be in all Dishonor decks and triplicate till the end of the arc.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
It's
The fact
great.
that
I mean,
the fact that it doesn't require any
reality.
dynasty resources is really
Absolutely.
important. You just toss it out there and then you get.
But they have a big guy. They're not going to want to, like, they buy, let's say they have their champion that they paid 10, 12 gold for, and they target them with Test. Now, if they blow that guy up, sure, they gain 4 honor, but they just wasted 10 to 12 gold for 4 honor.
Time walk them.
That doesn't bother me at all. And if they choose to just dishonor their big guy and lose 2 honor, that's great too, because I'm closer to winning.
Yep. No, you're right. I apologize, Test of Sincerity, for calling you a contest, but Test of Character, like, you are certainly a contest.
That's it. Hey, Call of Battle. I've played this card before, probably won't again, but when there was a dearth of straightening effects, this kind of got the job done.
I wish that this didn't straighten his unit, then I could play some sort of goofy balancy deck, but since it does, I don't really know what I'm supposed to do with this card.
So I like this. One of the things I like about this card is that it just gets around goofy Shibata Sensei, Bow My Guys, and Ranketh privileges. Like, it's not just a straighten effect. It's like I target him and he stays bowed for the phase, and then I straighten in battle. So, like, I'm getting in there with you, man.
Yeah, you can't mess with the guy.
And you can use it. You can use it a bit more proactively, where you bow your guys to do things. Like I can bow my guy to Sake House Ball your guy during my turn, and then I Call of Battle my guy, and I attack and I straighten. Like, you get to do stuff like that. I like Call of Battle. It's a fringe card, but it's a fine card to have in the set, and it lets you play some defense. So, offense, defense.
For sure. Code of Bushido is not a Bushido action.
Yeah, a huge flavor fail, I think. I guess they're saying that a code doesn't. I don't know. Anyway, it's just honor. I have to read this. I don't remember it. If the action from a
It's an old school card.
the consequences of losing a duel, that's tacked on there. It used to not have that.
Mm-hmm.
That may dishonor him or cause his play. Yeah, I remember. So just dishonor meta. There you go. More dishonor meta. Nice to have dishonor meta. This
We got
is
a lot now.
solid enough dishonor. It's all built around samurai, apparently.
Emperor's
Which,
Road. This was another gold era card.
did it used to bow you? I feel like it might have used to bow you. But this is, yeah.
Just
So
move.
move to another battlefield, or it can run you home. So there you go.
It's pretty
What do
good.
we think of this? We're losing gas a little bit as we
No, well,
creep
we're
to
just
the
trying
end.
we're trying to crank through. I mean, I'm just trying to crank through these last couple cards.
Yeah, I don't.
These are straightforward. The Dishonor meta card, there's not a lot to say about it. You want Dishonor meta, reach
Yeah,
for it.
I'm
This
not
one,
interested in superior tactics. I don't think I'm interested in this.
it's a little bit more flexible because you can go home. You can go sideways. You can go home. You can.
Okay.
You can't go in, which is why I
Nope,
don't care
can't
about
go
this
in,
card.
and it's not absent. I don't care. Eternal Rainbows, the 4 focus terrain that you used to play before Bridging the Gap was around. Now you have Bridging the Gap, and you'll just always probably play that.
Did we play
Just,
Eternal Rainbows? I don't think we played Eternal Rainbows.
I never did, but I saw it played in some dual decks.
Got it. Okay, let's talk about Path of Wisdom. This is a card you like a
Love
lot, so maybe we
it.
can go.
Love it. I love you so much. Still with the increased focus value that they tacked on in Lotus inexplicably. Like, I never understood it. Like, I was fine playing this card at a 2. They made it a 3.
And hey, where we are. Tactician
And
is back. There are all these legacy effects that want us to discard a card. I think this might be Path's time to shine, man.
Path is always shining for me, man. I don't know what to tell you. Like, I'll discard Path to make crappy Lion followers. I'll discard Path to Tactician. I'll discard Path to Defavor. I discard Path. I never have a problem getting my Path to work.
Yeah, the favor thing is really, that's like the real deal. I mean, yeah. I think that there's enough. It's such an interesting card to print here because they've really taken on discard a fate card as a cost of an action, as a cost of things, and they put it all over the place in a lot of different areas. And now here's Path to negate all of that if that's what you want to do.
Yep. And in fact, I do want to do that. I have Walking the Wade for Path of Wisdom. That's the thing that I've done, man. So, don't make fun of me.
Your commitment to journaling is so much greater than mine.
I got the Ring of Void in play, but more cards than my opponent. You give me that Path of Wisdom. Get back here, man. Get back here.
Unexpected Testimony. I remember this card from Lotus.
A Lotus era card, a Lotus era action means it's probably worth paying attention to. As a rule, if it is an action from Lotus that got played in Lotus, you're gonna wanna look at it, and this is when you want to look at. The political interrupt will come up more than you think. It will annoy and distract and bother Scorpion players until they remember they can just name it with their box on their turn before they dishonor stuff.
The first one gets them pretty good though.
Yeah, -3 force if you control the magistrate. That's it. That's the payoff, and that's a good payoff. Like, that's a fine action to do as an open. It's pseudo package.
For sure. This is the kind of meta card that I can stomach. And actually, attacking Scorpion players at the dishonor point can yield fruit. A lot of these decks don't play the spells that we love to play because we love Shugenja and we can't help ourselves.
Yep.
And if they're not doing that, then they're stuck on like 6 to 10 fixed dishonor effects.
Right, the one that was like playing Kalamoker's Harem back in the day, where it was just like you had to use.
It's like the Harem and the Bullies, and like that's what they got. And if you test 2 of them, then they gotta hope to see more, and maybe they don't.
Yep. So I don't think you can get the Bullies with this, right? Because I don't think it's an action, but still, attacking them at the dishonor point is very much viable. Unexplained Illness. I cannot really explain how this card is supposed to work right now. I feel like poison tokens are related to dueling or something.
I don't. You know, you got Red Fang's Hungry, you got Spinning the Web, you got the duel, you got the PSA. There's poison tokens everywhere.
The cheap ninja guy who puts them out. This is a fine card. I don't like these sorts of cards where I have to do a setup action just to get the questionably powerful effect of Unexplained Illness. And bowing is a battle. Like, there's just other ways to bow. There's a battle action. Bowing as an open is okay, but there's other ways to do that too. So I will stay away from this card even in my poison token decks because I don't want to be bothered having to work to play a power effect.
And I think that's the right approach. This is the kind of card where people get suckered into. It's a lot like that unsanctioned strike, the one that if you have a
Yep.
poison token, you get another poison token. They say poison token. I was like, yeah, I'm building a poison token deck. I pick all the cards that say poison token. Stop! Don't do it! Don't do it!
Yep.
Don't do it!
Just you
Just
don't have to
Like
play
step
all
up,
the
play good
cards that
cards.
say poison tokens. You don't have to play all the cards that say matches. You probably do have to play Unholy Strike because, yeah,
This
it's
is a
back.
real card. It's back. It's still common. I don't know. I wish that I'd taken some notes on some of the rares, and so every time a rare pops up, I say, how does this stack up to Unholy Strike?
Yeah.
3 copies every deck.
There's a lot of range. There's a lot of melees. It combos with itself just fine to kill
That's
full
right.
force
There's a lot of range. There's
guys.
a lot of 2, 1, 0 force attached guys. It's
Yep.
just it does absolutely
Card,
everything you want it to, as long
card
as
does
what you want
stuff
it to do
all
is
the
kill guys
time.
during battle.
Combos with force reduction. It's a combo deck. I play ranged attacks plus Unholy Strike. Unrequited Love.
I
This
hate this card.
card
I
you
hate this
hate.
card.
Really, just complete hatred, huh?
Just complete hatred. It's the kind of card that I tried to play a lot. A younger, more naive Jesse tried to play this card quite a bit because back in the day, dishonoring a guy was tough, and then it can also bow him, which seems like the real deal. The problem is that they're always going to pick the one you don't want, and in this case, the one that you don't want. It's like we talked a little bit about test of sincerity, where okay, they're a good player, they've played these board states before, they know which one to do. I think unrequited love is way more obvious.
Yep. I agree.
Some decks want the bow. Some decks play this card for the bow. Some decks play this card for the dishonor. And it's pretty easy after they've done flip for 2 turns to know which deck they are and to know how to play this card. And then the whole thing is.
It can always be a tell the tale on your own guy. You can always just buy your guy and get out. So I remember being on the AEG mailing list back on my old Yahoo Mail account where there was discussions between design people and players at the time, and those guys, Marty Lund, I remember was getting in there a lot. When this card came into Diamond, it was actually held up as what we thought Dishonor was going to be. There was and that held going on into Samurai when you had Deceptions, Veiled Dozers. They'd bow their guy, and then you had to choose: do you lose 3 honor, or do you dishonor your guy?
Mm-hmm.
And there was this whole amorphous blob of cards for a while where we thought Dishonor was supposed to be about giving your opponent choices, and the idea was that neither choice was good, but maybe one was worse than the other. And I could see how that might be fun for the Dishonor player. But for those cards to be good, both choices have to be bad for the opponent, and then forcing your opponent to pick which of these terrible choices will you select turns out to be a really bad place for the game. That's not a good thing you want to do. And with the return of Unrequited Love and with the return of Test of Sincerity, we're seeing these cards come back. And I feel like there's a reason people sort of associate Dishonor with this really sort of unhappy play experience. And a lot of it is this, where it's I don't want to bow my guy, but I don't want to lose honor equal to my printed personal honor. Gosh darn it, these cards are stupid, Unrequited Love isn't as bad as Test of Sincerity, but it can be. I mean, against high honor factions, they almost always just have to bow because they can't afford to let you just play a fate card and make them lose 3 honor.
Well, it's
a fine card; it'll see play, but from a player standpoint, as a design standpoint, I don't want this to be designed. I'm comfortable just removing.
Who's playing this deck? Who plays this card?
You do.
Me?
Yeah.
I don't play this card.
I play this card in my Dishonor decks.
Right, but in a Dishonor deck, you always just bow.
Right.
So
that's really annoying. But it forces your opponent to choose the choice of bowing, even though it's not really a choice. And that pisses people off. And I think making cards. I mean, obviously fun is zero sum, and I have to have all the fun. If you have any amount of fun, that's fun that I cannot have.
Yeah, we can't leave any fun on the table.
I can't leave fun for you. But I think most players would disagree with that interpretation, and they, forcing my opponent to acknowledge that he has to bow his guy tends to leave them with a bit of a sour taste in their mouth. And I would have been fine just leaving this card on the sidelines of history.
All right, let's talk about Unsafe Passage. This is another commander card, and this one is really interesting. Anytime I
Yep.
see something like this battle action that lets me do my stuff more, my ears perk up because these rules exist for a reason, and here we are
Even if it
violating
is
them.
bowed, is always like it's like even if it's bowed or the ability has been used. So like I don't get both. I can't like bow it to its own ability and then still do it again.
Just another reason,
But the
like
fact that they can like bow my ranged attack and I can be like whatever, man, here I go.
remember, please, that this is for followers. Just in case,
Yes.
like this does not target items. This does not target spells. Followers are so unbelievably pushed. Negating movement is cool. Like both halves of this cards are at both halves of
This is
this
a
card are excellent.
pure negate movement too. This isn't a brazen. This is
Yep, this
the
doesn't care where it's from. It can cancel
what
a
was the
favor.
one
It can
from
cancel guide.
Emperors that just canceled all movement? I can't remember. There was it was just 5,000 sets back in Emperor Edition,
Oh
but
yeah,
like
yeah, 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 yeah. Improper papers.
yeah, this is straight improper papers for commanders.
Yep. And the battle will be excellent. I don't know what we're targeting with the battle. Like probably just a range 3, but I'll just keep my eyes. Every time they print a follower from now until the end of forever, I gotta ask myself like, is this have an ability that if I can do it 4 times in a turn wins me the game? If the answer is yes,
Yep.
then I've got a deck ready, waiting in the wings. Usurpation.
Yep. Usurpation. So you're playing defensive honor. Here you go. And I mean, its card's awesome. It's great. It's great. 3 copies in every deck that wants to win through honor and will probably have to defend at some point, which is every deck that wants to win through honor. The fact that it's target your unbound defending personality, I mean, I guess they don't want you playing it in concert with like a soul sack effect, so okay. But it's great, and it's going to be hard to do better than this. This might just be the baseline for which all other battle actions for honor deck cards are compared. Sending a guy home isn't great because they have tons of move back in. It's never really going to stick. The idea is like you use the favor, they have to do something. You use this, they have to do something else. But that gain 2 honor tacked onto it makes
There's
it.
so many of these effects, and we really have hit like this critical mass of game 2 effects where if
Which
you
I think is
want.
what we want and need for honor decks.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And Honor's been so terrible for so long that I'm perfectly happy to see it surge back into a top slot.
Yep. And we can always beat it with the new orders and the time for actions if we want to. So it's
Okay,
not like
let's talk about some juice with Jesse.
juice.
So,
You say juice. Oh wow, you feel like you get juice out of this.
oh yeah, I'm squeezing this as hard as I can. I'm squeezing it mostly for the second ability because I loved Lessons from Earth. That's one of my favorite L5R cards ever printed, and
Sure.
this kind of rhymes with that. I'll be
Yeah.
playing 4 rings with 3 copies of long-term fruition and the monk, and just trying to jam out for +6 province strength and hoping that gets me somewhere.
Sure, but it doesn't last forever. It lasts for a turn,
Yes,
right?
thank you.
Like
But
what I would play Imperial Edicts if it was around, and I definitely think Dragon Honor decks will play this in triplicate.
oh yeah,
With their sensei, their province strength is like 8 or 9, and you play 3 copies of these, so like 11's really tough for people to crack, and so you get to really develop your gold very smoothly. And just Dragon military decks can play this card fine. The Earth Open though is a complete nombo because if you don't have a ring in play, well, oops,
yeah, exactly.
my bad.
That part of it's trash. There's so many ways now though to force assignment. You got the duel. You got the Today We Die. Now you got Walking with Earth. I don't even care.
Yeah,
It's such a bizarre. It's just such a bizarre thing to put on the card because of how Void works. So what they're saying is that we start with the ring in play. So I already can't do it.
yep.
And then say we're not playing it on a dragon. We do it as our first, then we have to play Void as our second.
Second or third. Yep. So I will say that I feel like you're moving to a point where most decks are starting Earth now because there's so many more defensive decks. And
I
Earth's
still,
becoming tougher and tougher, so having ways to. But I don't care, right? Like, I mean, I don't want to spend that much time thinking about how this helps or doesn't help in life because it's such a fringe corner case thing. These cards will be played based on what they do outside of their assistance to enlightenment.
so yeah, we're
And
talking about
give
Walking
plus
with
2 proper
Fire.
strength, it's fine. Like,
This one,
so,
This one, compared to Walking with Earth, much less good. Its battle open is pretty eh. We've had a
Okay, I
lot of
got
these straight and ring
a
effects, and
couple.
they've never really been played.
I want to get a few things out. So, Walking with Earth randomly had stapled to it Courage. This one randomly has stapled to it Karmic. Karmic is much easier to staple onto a card.
Yeah.
Straighten Your Ring is great because I can straighten my Ring of Fire and then use it again. So this helps me win the duel, but has a 2 focus value.
Well,
Sometimes.
yeah. I mean, it's like a strike with no thought type effect,
Now, if you
where
have so you can play 3 copies of this, and then for sure challenge a guy, and then after revealing focus cards, give the first card you focus. So you still have to focus to cards, so it doesn't really help you there. It gets ugly, man. This is. I'll tell you what made me excited about seeing Walking with Fire here. It came right after Walking with the Earth, which means there's going to be a cycle. Which means at some point they have to.
Walking with the Void.
Absolutely have to make Walking with the Void, and that's the one I want to see. It's got to exist.
It's got to exist.
Right?
It's
You
got to
can't make
come,
an
man.
Earth and a Fire one and not make a Void one.
And yet here we are. Let's talk about Warranted Search.
This is one of the easiest ways to dishonor someone if you happen to play magistrates.
Yeah,
so
this is all just
Yodo
support
Sensei
for the
Dragon,
senseis.
gain an honor.
For Yodo and Hakiseki Sensei, here's some more support. But it remains to be seen if those cards are even where we want to be.
Yeah, I don't know yet. This is a card that will end up in those builds though, if that turns out to be a deck. Hey, Wedge.
Bix and Wedge, you remember those guys from Final Fantasy 3? Wedge. What is there to say about Wedge that hasn't already been said? What do you get the card that has everything?
I love this William O'Connor art. In fact, I own a print of it, but I still also love the original art, and I'm sort of torn between which of the two I like the most. Because when I played Wedge when I actually played the card Wedge, I played the Time of the Void Wedges. So
yeah, you remember it very fondly.
Much worse. When they reprinted it in what did they do? Samurai? I think it was in Celestial too. Maybe I know it was in Samurai.
It was in Celestial, yeah.
It might have been, but was it in? I think this art was actually first showed up in like Lotus.
Yeah.
It hasn't been a card in a really long time. It's sort of like Super Bowl commercials. It's living off reputation and has been for a really long time. Like it hasn't been good. It hasn't been good in years, probably a decade. It's just like it's peaked in high school Rob Lowe. It's just like living off pure reputation at this point.
Well, I thought that Wedge. Oh, go ahead.
The reason is because not being able to target the guy with things, and it turns out a bunch of stuff is like a bunch of ability interrupt stuff that you would need to keep your unit there. It's tough.
Yeah, they can mess with you. This is a straight blitz card now. I'm sure there was a time when Wedge, you played it in opposed battles in order to trigger a crushing or in order to win the battle.
As much as you had opposed battles, sure.
That time has long since passed. So we're only playing this deck in blitz decks, and this is unopposed force generation. I could see a certain
combos really well with
deck.
Feign Death. Combos really great with Feign Death.
Absolutely.
So there you go.
So in your Return of Myth Rattling Raider Wedge deck with Feign Death, you're all set.
Yeah, absolutely. So force matters. Playing some number of wedges is okay, but man, you got to be careful. It's got to be towards the end that and maybe a crab deck where you'll like play your Way of the Crab and then wedge them anyway. Because hey, why not?
You can't double die.
That's right. I mean, if I'm going it all the way. But it's almost impossible to envision me playing 3 of these, 2 at most, maybe 1 in a toolbox tactician deck. From time to time, this card produces stories like no one else. You're like, you were way behind and it all seemed hopeless, but you put all your inspired devotions on that one Yojimbo and he gains plus 15 force, and then you wedged him, and he
was 30 force, and they didn't have anything, and then I got him.
And they tried to target him,
triggered, and I gained 50 honor.
They tried to target him, and I had 2 final sacks and an Interrupt the Void's flow, and it just wasn't to be, man. Wedge was carrying the day. So,
all right, last card.
Fun, and we go out with not a bang. We go out with
not even a whimper. What is this card? I own 100 copies of it because I bought a box of Crimson and Jade like a giant idiot. And
So like my choices were like Apple stock right before the iPad came out. I got about like 3 shares of Apple stock. I
Or
got about like
Crimson and Jade.
shares of Starbucks. I went with booster box of Crimson and
And they
Jade.
go,
Didn't right pay off. Was that the art that had like the back scratch?
this is the same. This is the same art.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah, no, the back scratch was a different card, but this you walk with evil. What is this card? Like, oh, I'm
Why is
Shadowlands, and then you're Shadowlands too, and I guess it bows them, but
so there's the spell that gives them
don't
Shadowlands while
stop. I'm
you're
still.
performing action.
I'm gonna let you
I don't
finish. I'm gonna let you finish. I'm gonna let you finish.
I
But this card is just. I mean, I don't even know. This is like. I'm upset that this is a rare. I'm upset that this is in a set. I'm upset that there's a possibility that I could spend American currency in exchange for Legend of the Five Rings collectible products and
I
have one
know.
of these be included in it. I think
Not
I'm.
only not only do they have to have a Shadowlands guy, they have to have like an army, like they have to have a samurai guy to go with
Oh
it.
my
So it's like,
lord!
oh,
It's
they're playing all monks and Shugenja. Well, that's no good. They're playing all courtiers, still no good. Like
this is like
it's
corner
just
case
so
the card. Like
ridiculous.
they really wanted to build a rectangle, like build a rhombus. Like, oh, I want all the corners on one card. What was look it's gonna look like? Oh, they gotta have this, they gotta have this, and then what's the payoff? Like you bow him. Like holy smokes, dude! How many terrible bow effects did we crank through in this? So we've been doing this for almost 2.5 hours now. We went through
Yeah.
90, we went through 91 cards, and in that
It
time,
also dishonors him. So
stop. I'm gonna let you
it's
finish. I'm gonna let you
my
finish.
shame isn't becoming tainted cannot be overcome. It can be overcome pretty easily, actually, because nobody cares that you're like Shadowland. Like nobody cares anymore. It's easy to
Actually,
over.
you could just
You're like the
ask.
guy. You're like the guy that won't go out because you've put on 10 pounds. Nobody gives a shit, man. Like,
You
come on, get
can't.
out.
You just have someone victory through deference and off you, man. It's not a big deal. So I hate this card. Obviously,
Yeah,
I hate the art. I hate the flavor text. I hate the card
take the
effects.
time.
I hate
I
that
mean,
I own so many of them from
they
Crimson and
can't all
Jade.
be
I
winners.
can't.
You could. I. It might. It might be time to start thinking about backing some decks with You Walk with Evils. You know, it's flavor, man.
Not allowed to. It's a legal
And
card.
people will be like, "Well, you can't back your deck with cards that you can legally play." Nobody can legally play You Walk with Evil. We won't allow
It
it.
might be legal. It might be legal by the rules of L5R, but sir, this is
It's not
America,
playable.
and in America, that is not
It's
legal. I will stop you. I'll come
not
up and be like,
playable.
excuse me, can I see a license for that?
You know what I'm gonna do if I see someone like if someone like tries to play this card on me or it appears because
Like,
I
no.
guess Spider meta. It's like if Spider ever become good, you can just really get him with that. So like I'm gonna like ask to read the cards. Like, oh, I can't quite see what I take it out of their sleeve and just rip the fucking card up, and then I'll just give them one of the 50 copies we have to replace it. Be like, that's not. I'm making a point, man. I'm not letting this happen. I'm not letting
I just
you.
refuse. Like, if it came up and it was battle, it was like game winning. I just refuse. Like, buy your guy. Like, no.
It's a
What
get
are you
up,
gonna
use the
do?
restroom, and don't return to the game scenario. Like I'm not playing this. Like,
I'm
I
not.
quit. I'm taking my ball and going home.
All right.
I came to play L5R, not be a part of some bizarre performance art that you're engaging with You Walk with Evil.
All right. So, actions in 20 festivals. Do you have any final thoughts?
There's a lot of them. There's a couple of big hits and a couple really interesting cards, and a lot of base set filler stuff that I maybe will play. But I feel like we're not going to actually play a lot of these actions because the
I mean,
expansions are going to fill out most of our decks.
the bonsai stuff and all that filler junk. I think the most important parts of the actions here, and that can maybe be a broader comment for all 20 festivals, is the things that it imports from the first half of Ivory into the second half. The Solana dojos and the mercantile conflicts and
Yep,
the the Death of the Winds cards like this.
yep.
As
So
far as new hits go, there's not a ton, but that's
honor
okay.
stuff is the only thing that comes to mind. The honor dishonor stuff. Mercantile is just jumps out as like, in case you thought dishonor couldn't work. Here, look over here. Hey guys, over here.
Which
Look
is
right
totally
here.
a wrong opinion, by the way. But
What?
on
Yeah,
Dishonor didn't
no,
work
but
in strict.
it totally worked.
Anyway, so
Now it works.
there you go. That's the end of our 20 festivals review.
We made it! Yeah! Celebrate!
It was
I will
tough. There were some
celebrate
tough times in
by
there. I want.
walking with evil.
I'd like a ribbon of some kind. Like
Say, where's my blue ribbon?
something, man. Like congratulations, you talked about every single one of these cards. Man, these base sets are big. We might have to figure out something else, like not talk about reprints or something next time.
Yeah, maybe like audio podcast and just talk about the cards we want to talk about, which will devolve into 8 hours of Ninja Shapeshifter discussion. It's like, that's just us
Oh,
brewing
all right,
Ninja Shapeshifter decks.
all right, guys. Thanks for watching.
Hey, Gloose, everybody.
From everybody here at the Enough Talk team, the Enough
That's
Talk Corporation. I am Jesse, and that's Paul. And for everybody here, we say thanks so much for watching. This has been, as Paul just said, Enough Talk.